Friday night. We have an intro. Are we live on YouTube?
Probably on YouTube, but let me check this out real quick. All right.
I am Holly, and this is Jared.
Yep.
And you want to do the intro?
Yes, I will turn on the intro real quick.
Fantastic. We have a big show tonight, guys. So, wow.
Live from Utah's Wasatch Front, the pulse of the Mountain West, where the issues that shape your life meet the truth that sets you free. Across Utah, across the Republic, and around the world, welcome. This is KMMU.
All right. Thank you, KMMU. This is Political Head Trauma, and where if Head Trauma had a podcast, it'd sound like this. Thank you, Brian Schott, for that one. Again, I hope everything's going well with you. I hope you, found a soft place to land. Anyways.
Who, Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After he got fired because he wanted to give little girls books of ill repute.
Yeah, something big going on in the news this week, and especially in Tooele County, but not just Tooele County. Lots of school boards all over the state did their Truth In Taxation meeting. And
they rip you off.
We, the citizens of Tooele County, showed up in the masses.
I
am so proud of our community.
I heard it was packed there. I heard it was packed on they had a Zoom.
Yes.
And I heard it was packed there.
130 plus people had signed up early to speak. That'll give you an idea of how many people were there. The rest of us showed up and listened.
Now I was smoking some ribs, so I got tied up with that. So I didn't make it to it.
Yeah, that sounds like really pressing issue, and it sounds delicious.
It was very important. I was smoking some ribs, but
okay, so I went.
Well, okay. The picture I've seen on the internet is that the one member sleeping. Was that happening?
I was sitting in the back, so I did not see that. And for those of you who will follow our page on Political Head Trauma, I just posted, I went live and just let you hear the people speak. I'm sorry if the sound was bad. It was dark, but I did that until my phone died. I had my family with me.
Yeah, if we could have, man, we should.
If my friend wasn't smoking that night, we could have.
I was smoking.
We could have done a live and maybe gotten a little closer, but Tim Gilley from the Transcript Bulletin was there, and he posted a great story. Let me just set the stage. I would guess there were over 300 people at least.
It was packed. I was looking, you're in the very back.
Was there. Yeah. And I had a prior meeting, and so I got there around 6:15, 6:30. But the whole board was there, as well as the superintendent. And the comments were so many people that got up and made comments. Some were teachers. Some were people from Grantsville, people from Lake Point, a lot from Tooele City, a lot from Stansbury. Like every part of our county was represented by the voters. And I mean, it was great to see. And to all of you that showed up, thank you for being engaged. One thing I noticed is they did this presentation of why they need this tax raised. And the presentation was like a teenager would have made a presentation.
Was it a PowerPoint? Tell me it was a PowerPoint.
Yeah. And you know what? Here I am from what we do. When we ask questions and we get into stuff like this, and I'm thinking the audit for this district just came out, shows lower test scores or outcomes for students.
Yep.
Very low teacher morale. And they're off budget about $40, $50 million for that high school that you love so much and more. And the audit shows this, that we're not in a good place. Then it also shows that we are the highest taxed district in the state. And the state creates a what do they call it when they're increasing the tax, in the nation, and they have the debt ceiling.
No.
There's like a ceiling of where they can tax to, and we are just right at the top. So you get this bad audit, then you get this presentation as to why they need more of your money. And then they hear from 130 plus people, not one person in favor. There were people who were angry, as you expect. There were people who were respectful, yet stern. There were people who were just asking questions. There were people who were extremely informative, letting us know the salaries of the superintendent and the many underneath him.
How much does the superintendent make?
With benefits, I believe it's over $300,000.
Wow.
And I'm not sure what is included in the benefits. I did reach out to someone who did share that
what
information.
What are the benefits?
They didn't get back to me.
Okay.
We knew we were going to do a show on this Tuesday night because we watched, and they wanted to make sure everybody that signed up to speak got to, including people online. So they had a Zoom and then they had a public. So there could have been 1,000 people. I have no idea how many people were there. So I ended up leaving at 9:30. So I'd been there about 3 hours and my phone was dead and I had kids ready to go home. So I thought, I'm thinking they'll table this. I mean, politically, I've seen that so many times. It happened in Stansbury Park after their Truth in Taxation meeting, and 100 people got up and said, no, you're not raising our taxes. And they tabled it. And then on Christmas Eve, I think they voted. So we found out after Christmas was over and New Year that they had actually passed it. Now the state came in, the state auditor, and said, you can't do what you did, Stansbury. So thankfully, we didn't get that tax that year. But just to give you an idea, for me personally, my husband and I's taxes in the last 3 years have gone up roughly $800 a month. From our house payment has gone up about $800. That is insane. And what's crazy is that they think people can afford this 9%, this 8% tax hike. And
just keep racking it up.
Yeah.
And they're fine with it because they get a raise.
Yeah, but they showed you they're not spending more money. They just stopped taking benefits and got more money for the job and saved you, the taxpayer, a little under $1,000 with their new plan.
In whole?
Yeah, as a whole. They made that as a whole. There's lots of charts out there. You guys, the thing is, I was shocked they didn't table it. I get a text or a call that night from Chad Saunders, who is going to join us. He also got up and spoke, and he serves with me on the State Central Committee. And just to be clear, I don't know if I was clear with Kay Pratt. The State Central Committee, we're not a legislative body. We are elected by Republicans, and we are the governing body of the Republican Party. So I don't want you to think that we can change legislation. What we can do is try to influence our legislators on behalf of the voters. And that's something that I've spoken with both of our state legislators from the House before this meeting, because, again, these are electeds that are Republicans that have accountability. So if Nicolene is saying, hey, we should raise your taxes, or Bridger Bollender is saying, hey, this and this, or the school board is throwing this on them, saying it's the state legislator's problem, I wanted to understand. And both Bridger and Nicolene, our representatives, have said we are trying to be adamant that we do something different with property tax. It's getting out of hand. We have to have some stipulation where enough is enough, where you stop, that they can't raise your taxes. And they've been putting these ideas forward. The school board did say that it was the state's problem for a bit, because the state withdrew the plan for on-site learning or mobile learning, and they lost that money. And yet that's a budgeting problem. You know, you're not going to keep this program as a school board, and yet you're counting on that money. That's a budgeting problem. You also know that the teacher morale is horrible. The students' test scores are horrible.
The teachers we don't retain them.
No, and we're not paying them enough. So they go around the mountain for additional $8 an hour, which any teacher, any person would do. We had that with law enforcement for a while until the sheriff stepped in.
The other thing we got to argue is I want to dig into, and this is a call out.
But let me just finish the vote.
Yes.
So I get the call from Chad. Holly, they just voted 2-5 to raise taxes. And I said, to be a fly in the room when that was done. Because of the room being so filled with angry people. I don't know how those people got out of there without getting yelled at.
I'll bet there's a heavy police presence as they voted.
There was. The sheriff was there with a number
out.
of deputies, and people were behaved. You know what? You can get mad on a mic all you want. I don't care about that. If you're being violent in any way, or you're rushing the stage, or putting anyone, threatening anyone, that's where I draw the line. These are still citizens, and these are still people that should feel safe in their environment. However, people getting mad at the mic is not a crime. And so what I noticed and witnessed that evening was very heated people, very passionate people, but they were saying things that the guy next to me was thinking. So I'm the last person who's going to say stifle their speech, or, not have these public meetings are by law, where the people get a voice, they sign up, they get to talk, but the board doesn't have to respond. They just have to listen.
Well, the picture on Facebook was one of them up there sleeping.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
Who took the picture?
I don't know. It's shared around on Facebook. Jordan, he says, we shouldn't have any taxes. As a libertarian, I wear my taxation as theft shirt. Our government is a bunch of crooks. Hey, guys. Hey, Jordan. He says, happy Freaky Friday. Party with Jared and Holly. Heck yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Jordan.
Although I can't drink tonight because I am on call. I have to sit here and drink my beerless.
Oh, you have to drink water like I do every week. It's good. Hey, Jordan, thanks for your comment. And I'm asking any of you in the Facebook world, we are on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and please leave your comments, because I know this affects a lot of people, not just in our county, but for our state. Our school is funded through taxes, through our property tax a lot, and then federal taxes and state all go there.
Here's what I want to know is I want to know, what's the administration look like? How heavy is that, and how needed is that? When I say administration, and yes, I'm sorry, some people may need to lose jobs, but the administration building that doesn't do any of the teaching, how heavy is that? How much is that is being peeled off by our tax burden? I've heard, and I'm going to find out, how many cars do we have on lease for our school district? I've heard we got cars that never get used.
Or broken machines that people are forced to fix but never replace, because there's a freeze on both raises for employees as well as new equipment that is needed.
Or misordered machines. Hey, look, government, you guys, and this is a message to all government, you guys need to start running lean. You're causing us to lose faith in you. And
too late.
When we lose faith in you, you go away. A government, by definition, has to be a fiction that we have given the monopoly of force to. But once that fiction's gone, especially in a nation where the civilian populace is better armed than the government.
You know,
It goes away.
Camille Knudsen, thank you for tuning in. And I actually was telling Jared that I would love to have you on the show because of your experience on the school board. And she's not currently serving on the school board, so she didn't make this vote.
We might need to get her back on there, though.
But she can explain the processes. Now, she does say the board can't respond, and I do understand the legality when you do a public meeting. That's how it goes. The public gets to speak in a Truth in Taxation meeting, especially. They get an opportunity to share their PowerPoint to try to convince you that it's needed, but then they have to do nothing and listen. And that's what made me so angry. This is not how government's supposed to work. You talk to your populace, especially a group like we had. You hear directly from the retired people living on a fixed income, the people who are already maxed out on the home they're living in. There's no new money coming to them, yet the school wants more. And you're seeing their mistakes.
At least
and then you're seeing the salaries of the people who made these mistakes or who were brought in to fix them. And you're thinking, wait a second. We're all here giving our say. In this republic, that's how it's supposed to work. We elected you to be our voice, and you ignored all those people and voted against us.
Why is the superintendent the highest paid person?
He makes more than our electeds. He makes more than our sheriff, who has large budgets also to cover. I mean, this makes me ill.
But our sheriff comes in and figures out how to make money. This guy comes in and I don't want to impugn the good name of whoever it is, but, comes from a principal from Grantsville where there was a football coach that, hands like to wander. Grantsville's getting a reputation, guys.
And so is Utah County. They're going through the same thing.
They're going through with the janitor, though. And then they get in there $300 and something $1,000. That's
benefits too.
I don't care. What's the benefits?
Probably healthcare and
what kind of healthcare are they getting?
I have no idea because I wanted a breakdown of the benefits, but I couldn't get an answer. Trust me, we only had a few days to prepare for this show. But I can tell you right now, the people reaching out to Jared and I, the whistleblowers, the people who, right now, Utah spends approximately $11,000 per student. 10% comes from federal taxes. The Utah taxes, the remaining comes from your local property tax. And here's the problem. They're not a partisan race. So your local parties can't get them out in front of you and let you know who these people are. Not can't, but they don't go through us. So they kind of fly under the radar, which is crazy because most people don't know who their rep is, their board member, or how they vote. And when they're up for re-election, none of that. And I think it's by design.
Well, there's a goofy little podcast out here in Tooele that will. I'm going to be involved in every one of these school board races.
Well, I'm going to show you
now.
Not
running.
Here are your board members. And I don't know who voted how yet, but Jared and I would like to find out. We'd like to hear from these people. Mm-hmm. And next week's show, we are planning on diving into this more because this happened in Alpine. This is happening all over the state.
Yes. And if you live in a county or a district and you don't have a dumb guy running a podcast there, start one or just be that person. Go out and talk to them all. Start a Facebook page. I think one, they're failing our kids. That's first of all, they're failing our kids and coming and saying every time they get the chance to vote for more money, they do.
Or a new bond.
And they continue to fail our kids.
Why is the high school built too small? Why spend that much money on a school that's already too small? That's a law that the state legislature needs to probably fix.
That needs to be corrected. That definitely needs to be corrected. And there's another, me and Camille got into this. I know she hates it when I say this, but we build these schools that sit idle for 3 months of the year. We've got to change that. That's too much expense, too much burden on us for them to sit idle.
Well, I can tell you,
I don't care what you have to do. We got to figure this out.
Melissa. Okay, so Melissa Rich is District 7.
Yep.
Robert Gowans, well, she's the president of the board. And then
Yes.
Robert Gowans is the vice president. Todd Thompson. Robert Gowans is District 1.
Todd Thompson is District 2. Scott Bryan is District 3. Emily Cephas is District 5. Vala Ray Shields is District 4. And Elizabeth Smith is District 7.
So
their terms expire either 2026 or 2028. So we need some good people who's willing. We need people to step up, getting geared up for next year and, step up, come on the show, talk to us, tell us what you're going to do. We've got to rein in this pay on the superintendent, and I don't care, fire him, rewrite the rules, get it, and then hire someone new or tell him he can be retained. I believe that $200,000 a year is a perfectly reasonable amount. And especially seeing how if we have failing, if we don't have an elevation in the education of our kids, if scores aren't going up and outcomes aren't going up, that person should be fired anyway. They're failing. If I went to work and didn't do my job, I would expect them to fire me. And I expect the same to happen from our government.
Would go through that. And Camille says that the school district is the largest organization in the county, 27 schools, over 5,000 employees, over 16,000 students, and multiple locations for operations and maintenance. There is not a larger business or entity that is close to the size of the district.
It's too big. It's too costly. It's too burdensome. And you know what? And it's failing. It's failing our kids. It's failing the parents. It's failing our community. And then they come in, they come in just brash and by soft force, just take your money. They're just like
so unbelievable.
They're just like, I can afford what my taxes will go up. Everyone can.
There's a couple seats opening up in 2026.
It's going to get ugly.
I've had people already reaching out. They want to run for the seat. We're just getting information. I think there should be a partisan angle in this because I think people should know their names, know how they are, conservative or liberal.
I don't care about
I want to know how they're going to vote.
Conservatives don't save us money. Hence the federal government.
I disagree.
They even spend more money when the Republicans are
I'm talking about local here. Our sheriff is a conservative.
Sure.
And a Republican. The sheriff of all offices probably shouldn't be a partisan office because he follows laws.
But our sheriff.
But you know how they're going to.
Our sheriff is in there
vote.
Not because he's a Republican. He's in there because he carries the character.
Yes, but he also ran first time as a Republican, and people understand. And I have a way to get people in front of him to interview him on the masses that I don't have with this school board. Even if it's a great Democrat, at least I can do a meet the candidates night and there's organization behind it. I'm not saying I think everyone should be a party, but I'm saying this district has been allowed to stay below the radar in a way that is so, for me, as someone who's highly involved in politics, it's crazy that I can't tell you who my representative is in the school district. And I know I'm not alone.
Well, and it's perverse, but I don't think that has to do with party affiliation. I think that has to do with, well, one, no one challenges him because it's not one of them sexy elected positions.
And it's one of the most powerful.
It is the most powerful.
Yeah.
But it's not, it just doesn't carry the, okay. Lindsay says, our school board is so incompetent, it's scary that a past board member is running for Tooele mayor. Last person who should run the city. Who is the past person running for mayor? You'll have to expand on that. Break it down for me, Barney.
So Camille
style.
says, if you look at the compensation amount per the district budget online, the superintendent makes $220K, which is competitive with other superintendents along the Wasatch Front.
I don't
I
care.
did see it was 220, but I also saw that it was higher with
ridiculous.
benefits. Camille, do you know what the benefits are that cause it to go so high? This sounds like the Dallas superintendent was making like 400K.
And they got rid of him. Didn't they? Didn't in Texas they got rid of the superintendent and had the principals kind of run their schools on their own? And let's see how the outcomes
look how
are.
many directors are underneath him that
super-
make a couple $100,000
Did
with benefits.
superintendents exist in 76?
No, and if we go back to
And it worked.
Laura Ingalls Wilder time, parents just picked a person willing to
Mhm.
teach this kids, and they got paid by parents. And Marcus Whitney, thank you for your comment. Can we not do a meet the candidates night even without it being partisan? We could. It's just it's hard to get them all in one place, and I don't know that they want to face to face. Like I would love to, and I have in the past. In fact, Camille has run for this school board, and she was my representative in Stansbury, and she came to all of the Meet the Candidates nights, and I was so happy that she was coming, and she was the first and only school board member that I've ever had want to engage with the voters during an election cycle and be out there, answer questions. And Camille
She's been
is
on
just,
this show multiple times.
yeah, she's just very engaged in politics, but I think she knew early on the power the school board has. And she saw the problems in the school board, and probably is what's encouraged her. And I don't want to speak for you, Camille, but it encouraged you to run for state office because you could see, you saw a broader picture than most of us ever have. And how many people attend school board meetings? Guilty. I don't. My kids go to a charter, and they
Not
have their
anymore.
meeting. Well, my daughter has one
Your
more
daughter
year.
does, but your boy, he's a fresh meat now.
Yeah, he's a sophomore now.
Oh, is he? Oh, yeah, he's a sophomore now. He's a fresh meat last year.
So I've had a kid in public school, and I can't say that he likes it at all.
Well,
And-
it's a failing system. Our public school system is a failing system, and I believe the rot starts at the top. Starts at Jimmy Carter doing the great deal with the teachers unions to try to get their support for him because he was going to lose the election anyway. But so he started a national school body, an education board, and ever since then, the education of our children has gotten more expensive and the outcomes have dropped. We went from number 1 in the world in 1976 to number 40 today. And we spend twice as much on our students as the next person behind us. So we're failing somewhere. We're doing something incorrect.
It's an open invitation, Camille. Tonight we're going to talk to Chad Saunders, who was there that
If
night.
Camille wants to call in, I'll
And
shoot her the link. We'll
we're
have her
going to
call
have Nicolene come on at 7.
in. Mm-hmm.
So, Camille, if you want to free up some time and join us 7:30 or so, we'd love to have your input.
Yes, Marcus. The public school system, the way it is set up, is a socialist system. It's the public school system sits on that weird place where it is a socialist system under the socialist that started with an N, where it operates with tyranny, soft tyranny, obviously, but tyranny. Although our education system nationally has a SWAT team and a lot of armament. Remember that came out under Obama that they were buying a lot of weapons and ammo. And was that maybe just a fleece, a cover up of maybe a little run and gun action by the government?
Let me give you some numbers.
Okay.
Scott Rogers pay, and I'm looking at 2022, and I believe we have a new one since, but he was at $253. Lark Reynolds, business administration, $212. Director salary of now we have a lot of directors at $203. for Terry Christensen. Jeffrey Ham, 188. Matthew Jackson, 185. Danny Strain, 183. Kendall Topham, 183. And then principals, about 178. Assistant principal, 175. So Tooele County School District highest paid employees, we have reportedly, as of 2022, 479 employees making more than $100,000 a year. I wonder how many of those are teachers, if any.
Oh.
We are ranked 417th in the nation
Ooh.
among highest paying schools. So that's not great. The average salary in our district is $77,000. So I'm curious what that's what I found online that that I could find regarding salaries, and people have posted recent salaries. We have so many directors that are making a ton of money. How are our numbers this bad? If money fixes education, why are our kids not graduating and getting good test scores and learning? And I think a lot of that goes hand in hand with teacher morale.
Teacher morale, the subject, it's Paulo Freire's ideals of the equality in learning. It's so many things. It is here's the facts. We have a leftist mind rot who has dripped in and taken over our education systems. They would rather spend time, instead of teaching our kids about critical thinking, just hammering down on them that things that they don't like is bad. Or how do you feel today, instead of getting them to recognize the physical world around them. Obama took all of the important stuff coming up with AI being born. He took all the shop classes out of school, kind of defunded them nationally. Some places hung on to them a little bit, but nothing like they did.
Yeah, but they starved the kids so they could get thin.
Well,
remember that?
I'm not going to argue with her trying to maha the schools. Did I say her? Anyways, I'm not going to argue with that because I don't know the ins and outs. I know we made a big deal out of it. But then again, look at what we do. We turn around and we say that, what is it called? The EBT can't be used on junk food. So I'm not going to argue that because I don't know enough about it. But what I do know is that we're being robbed blind and we're getting no outcome.
We're getting slapped in the face. Our voices
Yes.
are being shot down, and they're doing it anyway. Instead of tightening their belts, maybe lowering some of the salaries of the superintendent and putting some of those salaries back into teachers, back into the budget so that they're not in a deficit, maybe better planning with a school. They talked about the construction costs going up after they'd already been quoted something. Well, I'd like to see those. I'd like to see those change orders. I'd like to see who signed them.
Why did that school have to be that obnoxious? Lindsay Hinsey says, Manzione is running for mayor. She served 2 terms. I don't know her views or her goals. I'm just refusing to vote anyone who has been on the board. And that is completely fair.
But to be fair, too.
I know Marissa, and I like her. I like her a lot. But I think it is perfectly reasonable to say, if you've been on the school board, I'm not going to trust you.
But Camille has been on the school board, and I think she's been an excellent candidate in other offices.
I like Camille a lot. I know Camille.
Hi, Todd.
Humana, but I can only say that if someone out there, if a voter out there says, if they've been on the school board, I'm not going to trust them.
No, I can understand that. Especially after Tuesday night.
100%. And it's unfair that, Marissa's still not on the school board, that Tuesday night did that awesome vote, and she's going to be painted with that brush, but that's where she is. Todd says to me, it appears to me that government adopts the corporate mentality, delegate, and if there's no one to delegate to, then hire someone. We see it with the comment from the meeting that they will hire another person to manage planning. The school board and staff may be great educators, but maybe not great at planning or solving the problems faced. You guys think we're spending too much money? We'll hire someone to get on top of that.
Todd got up and did speak, and that was so great.
Todd's.
Let me read a comment that somebody left me on my Facebook page announcing this meeting. It's Mindy Waite, and she's a very good friend of mine, but she's a business owner in this county and built this business, her and her husband and her family, from the ground up. And it's been really amazing. It's a honey business. She says, imagine running a business like they run the district, $56 million over budget on the high school. I was a very vocal opponent in the school board meeting that moved to put this school on the ballot. They stripped everything down to get support, to get it on the ballot, and then allowed it to go over budget knowing full well it didn't matter. There is zero accountability, and people should be fired every time these entities that rely on tax dollars fail to balance and meet their budget. That would force responsibility.
Yeah, what do we got to do to start a recall?
I don't even know if we have that option.
So that's something we need to find out. Can we start a recall? If we can, let's do it. Let's start a recall.
Would it be a referendum to this vote? Is that even possible?
Not even as a referendum, but the people who voted yes on this recall, that'll be a chance for them to get up and prostrate themselves before the taxpayers and say,
David always puts, we need to think about the children.
Yes, why don't we think about the children?
You know what part of me feels like after watching that? Part of me feels like, and I could totally be wrong and I'm just jaded, so forgive me. But I've seen this happen in politics where they get together as a group and they decide, okay, who's not up for re-election?
You mean WWE style?
And they say, you can vote against it. We're going to vote for it.
Yeah.
But look at it this way. You vote against it. That'll make you get through your next election. And the people will forget when we're up in 2028.
Or they just say, look.
They decided guys, beforehand they were voting for it.
I barely won my district during the last time I ran. Barely won it, right? So I've got to vote no. I barely won it. But you had a strong hold in your district, maybe because, there's a lot of teachers that live there and they think that by us raising this, that they're going to get a raise, even though more than likely they're not. They're going to hire someone to control next time they screw up.
Where's Chad?
Which is comical to me. Dave, we need to think about the children. I don't know where Chad's at. He might be trying to figure it out. We'll look at the email.
So our guest is going to be Chad Saunders, who serves with me on the SEC, and he's also really engaged with electeds. He can also be very passionate and loud. And I think that Tuesday night, we needed that. I think a lot of people were so infuriated because especially our retired people, you guys, our young people can't afford a home as it is.
Yeah, they're
so
leaving.
Then they finally get this home that they buy, hopefully in the county, hopefully. But their house payment goes up year after year after year, but their salaries don't go up year after year. And then retired people who buy their home, they paid it off and they just have to pay the taxes and they're living on a fixed income. They cannot afford that little 8%, little just this year. We just got to cover. What the heck are you talking about?
Honey, if we swap hamburger out for cat food,
basically,
I have budgeted in that we can save 8%.
We can't buy our medicine, but we can make sure the government doesn't cake our house.
The seizures aren't that bad once it broke my hip. It really mellowed them out, Dave says one day everyone will say, David Weiss is right. Public schools. I would like to know, Dave is going to hit hard on. He wants to do away with the sports in public schools. He wants sports to be managed outside of the school system. And after seeing that cathedral of a football field they built and how much that cost.
To be let in. Yeah, it's collegiate.
It's ridiculous.
My husband says he saw box seats. Okay, Chad, I don't see you in our...
You got to click the link and then you come into the waiting room, the green room, if you will. And then I click on it. Yeah. Todd says, did you notice that they didn't just pass the increase, but after the discussion, they also will create an unnamed committee too?
Oh, geez.
No comment as to compensation for the new committee.
Todd knows.
Cat food is expensive these days,
Yeah,
David
you
says.
can't afford cat food.
Oh, and then he wants child labor. I've argued with David on labor. David, again, you don't want to force free labor in there because that disrupts the market. The South is
I think you
still
should
trying
let
to
kids
climb out of.
work.
I mean, there's a reason Africa is still a failing economy, and that's because Africa built itself on delivering slaves to the world for 400 years. And that ended brutally by the British. The British stopped that 250 years ago, and Africa's still not climbed out. So let's not even talk about.
I think that there should be
Unpaid
jobs
labor.
for children like 13, 14, 15. They should be able to make money and start young if they want to work. But, people have floated around the idea of privatizing schools as a whole. And I would love to know what that would look like if it's funded by the people whose kids are taught there. So if I spent $1,000, $2,000 per student for the year, that would still be cheaper than my taxes going up and up and up and up.
Seriously.
And if I'm one person in a large community like I live in, that teacher would make a ton of money, and they would make pretty great money to teach different levels of school. And I think that could work.
Camille says, your example is exactly why schools need to be able to charge impact fees. I feel like developers, some, do a bait and switch on the new home buyers. And that's probably true.
I don't know.
I'm not going to disagree.
But they get in there and they bought the home. And who's doing the bait and switch? Every time they get the new taxes, it's like, what?
Yeah, I don't think a developer did a bait and switch on me. I mean, my house was built in 2000.
And this way, all of these people contributing, and then all of this new growth just adds more money and, yes, more kids to the issue.
Mm-hmm.
But the money is coming in
Mm-hmm.
that should cover these new kids, like all of it. It's just crazy. And we already need a new high school, I bet.
Read what David says.
David says, you can pay them, not enslaved children. They fit up those chimneys so well. Okay, he's with us now. I heard him
bump in.
Okay, Marcus says, family of 5 bought my house in 2022. With the 2 tax increases, my monthly payments will be a $700 extra above what we planned for when we bought the house. That was our situation as well.
That's what people are looking at. You bought a house, and the bait and switch was the government.
Yes, that's the government.
Bait and switch is the government saying, look, you bought the house on allotted this much, and the government essentially has made your mortgage an adjustable rate mortgage.
With a gun to your head, mind you.
Yeah.
Just try not paying it.
Yep. Yeah, it's great. I love owning property. Chad.
Hi, Chad. Welcome to the show.
Let's see if we got sound on you, Chad.
How are we sounding? Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Sounding good.
You got Voice for Radio. Hey, can you give us a synopsis of Tuesday night for you and leading up to it? And then you also made a comment during the show or the meeting. I'd like to hear about your experience.
Sure. It was a crap fest, to put it bluntly. And I went, and I know nobody's going to believe this that's watching this or that will watch this that knows me. I went with every intention of not saying a word and just observing, taking some notes, and seeing what we had to do moving forward. I was so outraged at the presentation by Lark Reynolds. And should I say lack of a presentation?
Yes, explain that to Jared, because I was trying to.
Jared, it was less than it was like somebody, if they were in like 7th grade, that was just learning how to do a PowerPoint, and it was their first assignment in the first trimester of school. It was it was archaic, and it was what it was, and I truly believe this. They were doing the bare minimum to appease the letter of the law and not give too much information. They already had, you guys have said it, they had already made the decision of what they were going to do. So they just wanted to cover the law. And I said in my comments, it was like watching a kid do just enough to scrape by with a C-. And if that's the kind of work product we're getting from them, is it any surprise that our test scores are so low? And I was really upset. And I ended it by saying, show your work, which is, what I was always taught when I had math and science and on your test, you had to show your work. You couldn't just because they wanted to know you weren't using a calculator.
Maybe he made the presentation with Common Core and we just don't understand it.
No, it wasn't even the Common Core standards. It was below Common Core. It was not even Peace Corps standards. I mean, it was atrocious. And so, yeah, he needs to be gone. And the bloat at Lodestone Way is beyond the scope.
What do you mean by that? Are you talking about the school or what?
Yeah, well, the bloat isn't at the schools. It's not what
that's the administrative offices.
Okay, so we know where the I didn't know where Lodestone Way was.
Yeah, and I've been in there, and it's pretty ridiculous how many people are in there.
I'm going to give credit to my wife, Michelle, who is not political at all. You know her, Holly. She's not.
Yes. And she's a Raiders fan, so.
And she's a Raiders fan.
I'm sorry.
And so she's just win, baby. But, and we're not winning. And so she's really bothered. But this money shows that money isn't going to the teachers or the students. It's all going to be parked at Lodestone Way. That was Michelle's take on this.
It's a boondoggle.
Parked, exactly. Almost like 50 vehicles that they've purchased.
Yeah, I want to know how many vehicles they have leased.
Right. Yeah. It's all of that. So this is what I want to say. I know we're a little bit short on time because I'm technically obtuse and sat in the waiting room, but without clicking through for 15 minutes. I want to be pragmatic. We're not going to. We've researched whether we could do a referendum. We can't. We do not have a recall mechanism in Utah, so we're not going to be able to recall them like Jared was talking about. What we have to do is we have to be vigilant and make wholesale change, and we have to document everything so that we can get rid of people at the district level for cause. And so I believe what we need to do is we're going to have to do it on a four-way front. We're going to have to do it with our community governments, like our county council and our city councils. We're going to have to do it legislatively with our state legislatures. And we're going to have to look at the what our federal representatives can do to help us. And we're going to have to find none of them are going to be able to do it all on their own, but they're each going to have little pieces where they have some insight or have some access to that school district. And we're going to have to hold them accountable. We need those offices to be our accountability buddies. They need to work with us to make the change.
How do we do that? Because they're not partisan. So I was saying that's going to be difficult because
they're
getting them engaged.
You're right. But I talked to Jared Hamner. There are places where the county council has some purview and works with or is working with the school district. I've spoke to some House and Senate state legislators. There are some places where they have some purview and where they can look over stuff. Holly, you and I have talked about reaching out to some of our friends like Tina Cannon and Marlo Oaks at the
Get some auditing done.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then we need to reach out to Celeste Malloy and to Senators Lee and Senators Curtis. And
I just want to say, Chad, about that auditing thing, this family-friendly show, you can't talk such open and blatant pornography as auditing the school board.
He loves auditing.
It was absolutely ridiculous. And the thing is, nobody's being held accountable. And there's so much bloat. And you know what? What Camille said is right. They are a business. They are. And they're probably the largest employer in the county, if not one of them. The superintendent is the CEO.
Now,
But
Camille makes a good point. She
we
says
need
if
to treat it like that. We need to treat it like that.
Camille says this, if a developer had to help pay for schools, they would include that in the price of purchasing the home. Then the homeowner wouldn't be surprised with the tax increase to pay for the schools in the later years. Districts don't get funding for at least a year after a new student starts. That is a good point. And that's something that falls on, I guess, here in Tooele City and Stansbury Park, some random group of coven of witches that runs whatever over there. And then in Grantsville City. And so, yeah, that needs to be included with the developers. For every home, they need to plan on, 3 children. Actually, you should probably, in every new development, it should be wrapped in that every new development has to, wrap in 5 children, because you got to still manage the apartments and the rentals and all that.
But Jared, they've done some of that. And some of the ways that they do it is by donating land back or leaving land for their, when they buy land to develop a development, they'll at least set aside for a school to be built there. And so they do things to help offset the cost. It's a bit of a lost leader. It sounds great. A lot of what Camille says sounds great, and I agree with it a lot, but there's also a little bit of spin there. And I
let him finish. Explain the spin.
I think some of what, is Camille is passionate about education, and rightfully so. I mean, Celeste is passionate about education, and rightfully so. And I respect her a ton. She's a friend, genuinely. But she has a passion for she was there for a long time. The plus side is she's got some inside information. The negative side is there's a tendency to want to defend the choices that are made, thinking that we don't know everything that's going on. We don't. But we also know that we can be pragmatic and we can do some things differently. And we need to do some things differently. And Holly, we've had this issue out here with Stansbury Service Agency. We've brought up to them suggestions. Hey, work with the outdoor retailer out here, the warehouse, to help us with the lake. We can do things like that. We need to be much more creative. But what I want to say too is there's a meeting on the 12th. There's a district board meeting on the 12th. We need to attend. And we need to demand that they come up with cuts and changes and what they're going to do to fix things, tangible, real things within the next 90 days to validate and justify this tax increase that they just voted in. We have to hold them accountable.
What's the date and where's it at, Chad?
I imagine it's probably going to be at Lodestone at their regular attendance, and it's the 12th. And I believe their meetings start at 6:00.
August 12th.
Yeah, but there's a meeting on the 12th.
One thing I want to hit Camille with is, I'm sure developers, the city will tell them they have to set aside stuff, but the opportunity for the developer has to be there for them to even come in and build. And let's face it, we're not getting building in cities without developers anymore, because you have to get it across a regulatory burden, which is on the state and the state government and the county and city and all that, and just the price for hookup.
We just have to use every resource available to us to hold them accountable.
I'm telling you, the biggest resource is we need to dial back our government wholesale. I
agree. You and I are in agreement on that. Fiduciary responsibility. That's something that everybody needs to learn what that means, because a CEO and a board have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders. Mm-hmm. We are the shareholders. They have a responsibility to us to put forth a quality product at a profit. Yeah. Or not in a negative.
The return on investment, which that return would be our children getting graduated and understanding math, science, and reading.
Or moving into a technical trade. I'm all for bringing on technical trades.
Well, we're gonna have to.
Ernest is Stephen Colbert. Ernest is Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert finally got fired, but it was after 4 years of running at a $40 million deficit.
Yeah.
There's a direct parallel between Colbert and Ernest, and that is untenable. and it needs to be corrected.
Yep.
And the same for Melissa Rich. And by the way, Holly, I think your rep is either Emily Cephas or Melissa Rich. Mine is Rich. You and I are right on that border. We share some reps. We don't. Melissa's mine. I believe Emily or Melissa is yours.
Do you know who voted for?
Yes. Yeah. Smith and Thompson were the 2 no votes. Brian, Rich, Gowans, who I don't think's ever met a tax he didn't like, and Cephas and the lady from, I can't remember her name, from Erda, were the 5 yes votes. Thompson and Smith were the no votes.
So Valerie Shields.
Valerie Shields, thank you. Yes.
And Todd Thompson, District 2.
Okay.
Yeah. And
yeah. Now David brings up a very good point, and I'm going to second this. He says, Chad, why don't you run? You know you want
because
to.
Holly knows this. I'm just going to say it outright. I have been told that when I go to file to run for office, file the divorce papers at the same time.
That's a good funny.
Chad's wife, why don't you run? You know Chad wants you to.
Well, that's the
My wife
question,
would,
right?
You know what? Michelle would be great. No, if we could get Michelle to do it, she would be great. And
Chad, tell me, is it Emily Cephas that voted? Who? Elizabeth Smith voted no.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. Elizabeth Smith voted no.
Okay. So I want to, this is my big fear, and we run into this all the time in politics, is people's memory is so short.
Mm-hmm.
We are so angry right now. And I think they're banking on the fact that we're going to forget about this in the election of 2028. And, 2026, we've got how many seats opening up? Is it 3?
It's 3 and 4. So we have 3 opening up in 2026. The other 4 don't open up until 2028.
And I, like Jared, we want to talk to these people. We want accountability for this vote. We want it explained to us like we're 5, because they are obviously smarter than we are. They know what's best for us and our kids, even though they can't pass an audit. And the ridiculousness of their employees.
I want a sales presentation. You and I do sales for a living, Holly. We do. And we do marketing, and we do a lot of things like that. I want it to be marketed to me, and I want a PowerPoint that gets me saying yes after each slide in there, because I understand a lot of the stuff that Celeste brings.
Camille.
That Camille brings up that is legitimate. Sell me on it. They don't sell us on it. And this garbage about, we put this out or we put that out. No, you have to do a campaign. You have to do a campaign.
Like they did when they wanted the bond for the school.
Yeah, exactly.
They worked their butts off to sell that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And here's the thing too. I want to say this. I don't mind, because they're like Sheriff Wimmer. I'd be willing to pay Sheriff Wimmer another $100,000 a year because he's getting us results. I would have no problem with Superintendent Ernst's salary if we were getting the results out of it. If our kids were passing the testing at 80% to 85%, if things were running smoothly, job well done, you've earned it because you're running a large corporation. You're not, everything that audit shows, the buck stops here. The buck stops here. It stops with them. And so they need to be held accountable. And the way I believe we do that, and you guys can help us with this, is we've got to enlist the county, the state, the federal, and then we have to grassroots, like you guys do and what I do. We have to grassroots to keep it in the news cycle and to keep it in the media cycle so that we don't just forget. And I get tired too of this. Holly, how many meetings could you and I go to a week if we wanted to? I'm tired of them telling us, I don't see anybody at the meetings. I don't see this person at the meeting. I don't see that person at the meeting. They only have to worry about their one area. As citizens, we could seriously be at a meeting every night of the week.
Yeah.
And so they need to do a better job of disseminating information so that we know when it is really vital for it, so we can pick our battles of what meeting we're going to attend what week.
Well, we've trusted them with our vote to represent us in our best interest. And when you have a meeting like they had Tuesday, where everybody was against it. Not one person, not
There
one
were
person
teachers.
was in
There were
favor.
multiple teachers in the district stood up and said, "Don't do this." Multiple
Absolutely.
teachers. So it wasn't like it was us against the teachers. The other thing too is
My kid's teacher stood up and talked.
this is what is so maddening. They didn't listen. They just didn't listen. And
We already decided.
the audit, and then the audit is so bad. Yeah, there's none of this that can be justified. We have to hold them accountable. And right now, I think that's the only way we can do it is by enlisting others to help us with it. And if we do that, then I think we'll see some difference. But it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. The other thing too is we've got Constitutional Month coming up. We are coming up on the 250th anniversary of the birth of our nation. We need to be taught, and we were founded because of taxation without representation.
Yes.
We were given taxation. You know, some people have gotten mad at me on social media because I've suggested that we boycott. That when a kid comes to your house and brings a box of candy for you to buy a candy bar, don't buy a candy bar. I was at a fest.
That hurts the kid, though.
It's tough. The hard part.
It doesn't hurt the kid. They're already, what we need to do, this is where we need to get the messaging out. They are already hurting the kid.
Yeah.
Why are parents and teachers, why are teachers sending a list home of office supplies for the kids to donate to the classroom?
Well, that's
the first thing that should be paid for. It's not us hurting the kids by refusing to donate. That's a scare tactic.
Well, I hate to say it, but it hurts the teachers too, because a lot of teachers fund their own classrooms.
Well,
and
why are they funding their own classrooms? That's my
because
point.
the superintendent has to make over $200,000+
and they
a year.
have to lease multiple cars that sit in a parking lot.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about this.
No, I get it.
I'm tired of everybody putting it back on. You know, and it's funny. We joke at my work when I'm selling high school football. We say, "Do it for the kids," and we joke about it.
Sent it.
Where did you send it?
See, it's not just me. It's not just me. You two.
Yeah.
It's not. That's a scare tactic, and we've got to quit buying into it. We're not hurting the kids. I was at a convenience store today, and they asked me to donate to the local. Up my thing from $2.50 to $3.50 would go to the school. I told them no. They've already got my money with what they're going to get from the property tax. That money is the money that I had earmarked for donations and charity and things like helping the school has now had to move from column A to column B. I don't have money yet to refill column A. That's basic economics. So we've got to teach the kids this stuff.
Marcus asked if we'll invite them onto the show. If you're talking
Absolutely.
about the school board, yes, they've got an open invite. They could right now, if they shot me a message, I will send them the link and we'll bring them on and let them have their 5 minutes.
The other group I was thinking of, Matt Hymas. We've got the chair of the Utah State Board of Education lives in Stansbury Park. And Holly and I, we've gotten to know several of the State Board of Education members. They need to be helping us with.
Yeah. And Matt is very available and open. Yeah. I got to meet with Matt recently, and they're all ready to do something. The thing is, it's got to start at the state. We've got to figure out the property tax and entity and all that, and how the school board is making their money. We can't just stop doing property tax without a solution in mind to fund what's needed out of property tax. But I think that I'm for it being a partisan race only because I want to know who the liberals are. I want to know that liberal mindset, and I want to get it out of our education. I know that's me, but I'm a Republican, and that's what I want.
They did that down in Utah County this year, and it's been very effective. They've done a really good job in Utah County of treating it like a partisan race, even though it may still be nonpartisan. They still. We should talk to Christy Henshaw. I know they did some stuff down there with it, and they've done a great job of getting in some new people. And Jared, you're right. It's socialism, and a lot of this goes to it's socialism. It goes into the educational stuff that's brought in that we question. I'm bothered that our kids aren't taught a good civics lesson. And I know you're going to get other guests, and I want to leave you with this.
Well, we have a question for you before you go.
Yes. Well, okay, real fast. So 1980. I
Go
was
on.
in
No,
junior
let
high.
him. Yeah.
I was in junior high, just starting junior high. We had our 3 days of civics and homeroom. And this is coming out of the hippies and all the protesting and everything that was going on in the 60s and 70s. And everybody was saying, I've got my rights. What about my rights? I've got my rights. We're right. We do have rights. But they also taught us we have responsibilities. That school board and that school district has responsibilities. And they need to be held accountable for not living up to their responsibilities. We've got to start teaching our kids about not only rights but responsibilities, and we need to educate our kids on what's going on right now, because that will help us ensure we don't have a future generation that's like the one we have right now, where things like this are allowed and enabled.
They smacked us in the face with their vote, and they listened to the people one ear out the other, and it was so blatant, and they forgot who they work for. And I got to figure out the semantics of this, because that I don't see any of our electeds doing that. So blatant. I mean, our county council, you know every one of them. We know every one of them. We know our sheriff when he's up doing his budget. We know our clerk. We know our auditor. And they have to be accountable. Why is it no one knows the school board? I feel like it's by design. And that's what's got me so angry.
I think it's because it's not one of the...
It's not sexy.
It's not sexy. It's not one of the sexy positions.
But it's so powerful.
But it is. We need to recognize it's the thing that the mover and shaker behind the scenes. Now, Tony Knudsen says, first time Bob Gowans has held public office. How has he never seen a tax he didn't like? And I don't know if is that an honest question but
I think it's a little bit of both. And Tony's going to push back at anything I do. I pissed Tony off when I did the flag referendum, and he got sick of hearing about it. So take it with a grain of salt. Take Tony's question with a grain of salt.
Okay. So is Bob Gowans like a...
Bob's a Democrat. Bob and his family are lifelong Democrats here in Tooele County. So I was more of I was making a joke, and it was more of a Democratic, joke than it was I was joking around and quipping. The family's a Democratic family, has a history of being Democrats at various levels of office in the county. I was making a joke. So I'm sorry, Tony. I didn't mean to hurt your feel goods.
Well, no, I completely understand.
No, I get that's the stuff that gets stale. By the way, the other thing that gets stale is when people ask in social media, well, how many kids do you have in this school district? You know what? I don't have any right now. My kids have all graduated. But when my kids were in school, they were involved in drama, debate, choir, and cross country. My wife and I spent countless hours volunteering. My wife cut hair. She sewed costumes. She was in the PTA when they were in elementary school. I did everything. I judged debate tournaments. I judged drama tournaments. There was a time when the cross country team, the district canceled their bus at the last minute. And I was able to use some of my resources from work to get them a charter bus, so that they could still go to their cross country meet. So I've got some equity built in this. And not only do I have equity, everybody who's retired or kids are empty nesters now, or kids have just, aged out of the school system. We all have skin in this game. And I think it's disingenuous for parents and others to ask us, well, do you have kids in the school?
What does it matter? It makes it look worse.
They get upset when we want to make hard choices.
But it makes you look worse to question somebody's kids, because what if you don't? What if you paid your time and spent the money, and yet you're still funding a school that's doing this with all the test scores? That to me is ridiculous to throw that in your face. And you've got grandchildren going to start school soon.
Exactly. I've got a granddaughter who'll be coming into the system. So, it's, again, and I'm passionate about this because I want to see us succeed. I love our community. I love this county. I'm so glad I listened to my wife 23 years ago when she suggested we look for a home out here and move out here when we moved back into the state. And I first started working back down here again. And we have loved our community. We love our neighbors. We love being here. I want to be part of the solution. It's why I get so passionate and so loud, because I because a lot of people don't know how or won't or can't. Holly, you and Jared are the same way. We love where we're at. We just need to be better. We just need to do better.
We do. And ultimately, it's up to us.
Yeah.
It's up to the voters. And let's face it, I don't vote, so I shouldn't be able to gripe.
You did vote.
I did last go round. Camille says, what does success look like in Utah County? The election hasn't happened yet. The current board still voted to increase taxes because of the process.
And the vetting process and the engagement with the new candidates and the old candidates.
Yeah, Camille, they're showing up to the meet the candidate nights with the other candidates, kind of like what you did. They're engaging with voters in a campaign that's a little more public, is what he's mentioning.
Yeah, it's been more transparent as far as getting to talk to people and engagement. Yeah, we don't know how they'll do yet. She's right. Camille is exactly right on that. Is we don't know how they'll do, but at least they're trying something different so that we know who people are and we're learning who the candidates are. And I think that's important. And a lot of times we think we know a candidate because they're our neighbor, they go to church with us, whatever. Oh yeah, they're a nice person, I like them, and we vote them in, and then we get in and we find out, yeah, they've never run a business, they've never been involved in business, they don't know what they're doing. I mean, for all my bluster, I don't know that I would do any better. I think there's some things I would do differently, but I would definitely be accountable. I would definitely be accessible, and I think that's what we're really asking for. And so,
I do have to address one thing.
One thing. Well,
Camille says we are paying for future education just like previous generations paid for ours. That's pretty hard to say when you toss tax increases on tax increases during inflation years. This has happened before in the U.S. if you take walks down history like I do. And it's always ended up with heavy populist movements and little mini depressions and recessions and collapses. But Camille, is there a limit and at what cost? Where are you willing to take this increasing taxes? That's my big question. Is right now they're trying to do the slow drive up to 15. They wanted to get, what was it, 4 years ago or whatever. That's what they're doing. They're just doing
David's comment right
after.
I'll
get to it, but allow me to. They're trying to drive us to that 15, and then that won't be enough, and then drive us more. So at the cost of taking, security out of the current children's homes for the next batch of children, is that what we're looking at, or is it the cost of bifurcating our community into where you have renters or wealthy, and that's the end of the discussion? Is that where you're willing to take this? Because if you're only going to argue your point, that's the end of that road. That's the logical end.
So good.
And I don't think any of us are unwilling to help and pay it forward. Because I knew as soon as I brought up what I did, I didn't know it was going to be Camille, but I knew someone was going to pipe up with the pay it forward. Somebody paid their property taxes so your kids could go to school. I knew that argument was going to be coming.
Yes. And I don't want to sound like I'm pinpointing you, Camille. You're just the one that made that point.
And there's a part of that point that's very true. We need our populace educated for the future generation.
What's the limit? Because as we've gone down this path, we started playing with this path in the 70s, and we have failed every time we've tested it.
Government turns things to crap.
Yes, government only does one thing: turns gold into shit. That's all it's ever done. No one can stand here and tell me a success the government has had. Success has happened in the free market. Success has happened with the populace. Governments succeed when they allow the populace to do that. We had astronauts stuck in space, and the government got out of the way, and civilians went up there and rescued them. The
free market reference. Jared, great topical reference. Lavelle, 98 years old, passed away today from Apollo 13.
Oh,
good rest.
So great. Good job, Jared.
We have another guest waiting.
Yeah. Yes. Great talking to you guys.
I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts. I appreciate you being at the meeting. You're at a lot of meetings, and
we're working on. I want to say too, we're working on a meeting in the next week or so where, much like we did at Holly when we did the meeting after the tax increase with the service agency, let's get organized and let's lay out a game plan. Let's find out what assets we have and who we have that are willing to work with us, so that we can go and take this on in a constructive and a productive way. I do think we need to do that. You guys have a good night. I'm looking forward to hearing your
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you, sir.
Adriana makes
My best to your wife.
Yes. Adriana makes an awesome comment. She says, people keep talking about we having low test scores, etc. What I believe is part of our problem is we are teaching students to the test. Think about the student with special needs. We should be taking a step back and teaching and looking at individual student growth and not just state test scores. When they generalize every student as having the same brain, same style of learning, etc. Also, if you just teach them to the test and then move on to teach them to the next test, they're not learning it holistically. They're just learning to parrot it back to you.
And I have to say on that, Adriana, my kids are at a charter where the system follows the child, not the test scores per se. They use tests to figure out where the child is in that particular class, and then they keep that kid in a classroom that is at their level. So if your fifth grader is reading at an eighth grade level, then she or he continues on in an eighth grade classroom for reading. Charters have figured that out. At least the one in our county has, and it's done miracles for these kids, because if your child is on an average or above average, the school is letting them learn at their own pace. Why public school doesn't do that, I don't know. And again, we've done everything the same, which makes it insane, because we're expecting a different result. Even with these changing kids and the needs of these kids and the changing teachers and all of these things that happen, we have to find a different way that supports the child first, not an administrator, not a director, not a principal, not even the teacher. This is all supposed to be at the child's need, and that satisfies all of us, because our kids are getting educated and they become adults and they become educators, or they become...
And I don't want to lay the failure...
doctors or whatever.
...completely on teachers.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that at all.
But I will lay a heavy failure completely on the government. Because as the government demands more taxes, it demands more of both parents having to leave the home to provide income to cover the taxes, which we know the best outcomes, and this is guaranteed across the board on every spectrum, is if they have an intact family with a mother in the home. That is 100%. That's been proven over and over again. That is it. And now, Tony.
And a father. We've got to get Nicolene in here.
She's not even in the waiting room yet.
She said she's waiting, just like he was.
Yeah, she needs to follow through. Tony, you said Second World War was pretty successful. Yes, it was. And it was the last of our wars that was fought by citizen soldiers before we had a big professional army. How we been doing since? How we been doing since this growth of government? How we been doing? Your next thing says reintroduce critical thinking. I tend to look at things from a lot of angles, and I'm not a very bright man, but I do recognize why the Second World War was successful. We've had one kind of success since then. It's kind of an overwhelming, and if I put on my conspiracy theory hat, planned expedition into Iraq. Our next visit to Iraq didn't go well. Neither did Korea, Vietnam,
and critical
Panama,
thinking.
Honduras, Grenada, Somalia. I mean, where's our successes? So, yes, when it was citizens, it was very successful. And that's what I'll leave that one with.
Yeah, Todd says World War II funded by.
Yes. All right. So Nicolene is having a hard time getting in, but no, these are all good points, but we need to hold them accountable. We need to, one, I keep hearing this over and over again, especially from Camille. The government is not successful. The government was not successful in World War II. Let's remember, the government got more involved in that Great Depression World War II brought us out of, that extended it 12 years.
And they waited how long to get into it?
So yes, Nicolene found her way. I just heard it. But yes, World War II was, I don't consider those government successes. I consider it getting out of the way of.
And literally, let's be honest, that's the government's one job in the Constitution is to protect the country. It's not to educate the country. It's not to provide health care for the country.
They did well on Pearl
The government's
Harbor.
job is to protect the country.
Anyways, on to Nicolene. How are you?
I'm happy. Thanks. How are you?
You're
Jared?
happy. I like hearing that.
Nicolene, you
Yeah.
were at the meeting on Tuesday night, and you and I spoke prior. My concern was, and I went to you and just said, hey, is this a legislative problem before the meeting? Because I had a feeling that that would come up from the school board. I didn't feel so much like they were throwing the firebomb at you, but I did miss the first 20 minutes because I was in another meeting. So I'm just curious, how do you think it went? And then you as a legislator, I know you've got a lot of solution ideas in your mind that you're trying to work with and just to help the people of our county with this tax issue and the whole policy, in fact. Can you share a little bit about what you thought?
Sure. And I appreciate you bringing up the part about them talking about the state. And because this is the conversation that comes up a lot, it's not very uncommon for school boards to point fingers at the state for things. That's a pretty common thing for them to do. But when we were at the work meeting, like a week and a half ago now or something like that, that was prior to this meeting, they were talking about certain funding and solutions that they wanted to explore. One related to equalization funds, and in that meeting they said, "Well, this is not our fault." And then they threw out the idea of maybe we should sue the state, and our legislators need to get us out of this, or they need to do this for us. They need to do this equalization money and stuff. And I said, okay, you know what? I'll take them seriously on this. The lawsuit kind of like thoughts and talk of the lawsuit. I thought, well, actually, that would never go anywhere, and that's kind of like not a really good thing to be saying as far as like
It'd be expensive.
And how long would it take?
It would be expensive, but also, because that was in reference to the My Tech High business decision that was made a couple years ago. And actually it wouldn't stand just because of the differences between how things did happen with Provo. So Provo, their contract expired, it sunsetted, which is different than canceling a contract with a vendor. And so that's a whole different thing all in and of itself. And there's actually statute that talks about that kind of stuff. So, we actually had money that would Representative Bolender went and got $10 million for the school district to help them after that situation too. So it's not like nothing has been done to try to help them. And so, that was I felt like kind of hard, but I thought, you know what, maybe the equalization thing could have a chance. I'd spent some time talking with former Senator Stevenson about that, who was there making that presentation. And there's some parts of it that I don't love, just because it kind of gets into like more socialism ideas that I don't like. Anyway, I mean, that education, the way it's funded anyway, is kind of like a socialist model. But anyway, so it gets into more socialism though that I kind of don't enjoy. And he kept talking about equity, and talking about how we just needed to give more money in the equalization fund. So I talked to some people at the state about that plan, and I said, what would I have to get, to move the needle on this or anything? And they're like, well, if you got 50 million, you might be able to get, your district may be able to get this much, but that wouldn't be for another 2 years from now. So it certainly wouldn't help with anything that's going on right now. And they said, and it would make it so that at the uh, if a family made say 50,000 a year, which is kind of a median income, okay,
Yeah.
then each individual's taxes across the whole state, not just in Tooele County, but across the whole state, the individual income tax would go up at least $400 per person. And so I was like, well, that's a no right there. Like, sorry, like I won't do that.
Can you tell
And
me quickly what is the rate that we are taxed by our district? Didn't you mention that? I don't know if this was recently, but as far as the county, Tooele County School District, and they're taxing us, the citizen, aren't they pretty high, if not the highest in the state?
so they're the very highest in the state, especially with this proposed increase. I do believe last year we were either number one or two. We might have been number two, but I think we still could have been number one. I don't want to say for sure though, because I don't have that data in front of me. But I remember hearing some reports on it in committee during some interim stuff. Um, but for sure, we are, according to the fiscal analyst at the state, with this passage, we are the highest in the state. So there's different ways that they make the percentages on the taxes. And here's the really hard thing to figure out with all of this is it is so difficult to figure out all the different revenue streams that come to the school and how they intersect with each other, the nuances of all of them, the different laws and regulations and formulas for how they formulate all this money. And so it's really hard for just a regular citizen. And honestly, I mean, I can clearly say it's not like I have a PhD in it. You know, I'm still learning little bits and pieces as I'm going along here with all of this, even though I feel like I've looked at it longer than most people probably
You've
have.
been in education your entire life.
Yeah, but even so, there's still pieces where I'm like, "Oh, no kidding. Oh, I didn't know that." You know, I still learn things. So it makes my heart go out to the citizens who are going, "Okay, I see this and I see this, and those two things don't go together." And but they don't even actually understand, well, where did that money go and where did that money go and you know, and how does it all come together? And I had really hoped at the Truth in Taxation meeting that we would see line items of where all
Yeah.
the things went, because then if people didn't understand exactly all of the revenue in streams, you know, all those streams coming in, at least they'd be able to see it in a sheet, right? So that would be like, okay, this money came in, or we're projecting this money here, this money here, this money here, and then we're projecting this amount of money for each of these different programs or projects or whatever it is. And so that would make it much more clear for people. Sadly, we didn't get a chance to see that, which was really unfortunate. Anyway, but as far as the rates go, so there's different ways to figure the rates depending on how many levies you combine together. If you're taking in a full, so the full tax rate for with the proposed increase that was voted on, the full tax rate is 0.009135, and that's for all of the school things all together. But the part that I spent the most of my time comparing was the joint levy, which is the board levy and like the voted levy, which are the two main levies that bring the most money. Those are the ones that are increasing our tax rate by 39 point something percent. And so those were the ones where I spent the majority of my time looking at. And according to statute in the state of Utah, because we do have caps, even though boards do have the freedom to make these changes in their levies, there was wisdom years ago where somebody said, but you can't ever go above this much because that would be way too much, right? And so we do have caps. The sad thing is on different things, the caps are different. So keeping track of all of that is very difficult for people. So I'm just going to talk about one piece, okay? So the joint levy with the board local levy and the voted levy, the statutory cap on that is 0.0045. And our proposed rate that just got voted on was 0.004338. That's very, very close to that
Unbelievable.
statutory cap, okay? and the state average for that joint levy is 0.002225. So we are actually like
Almost
double.
double. Yeah.
Yeah, almost double of what the average is for the state. Now, there's a lot of factors for why the way, our revenue streams are a little bit different than some other districts and counties. We have a lot of BLM land that presents a problem because we don't get any tax money for that BLM land. And when I say a lot, I mean like the majority of our county is BLM. Okay. We
Right.
don't have a ton of industry out here, as much as people don't want a lot of big business coming out to Tooele because they want it to still feel rural and, like we love. That also impacts our taxes. So when we don't have a ton of industry, so some of these other districts, that seem like they're a little more rural, like up in Summit County and stuff like that, they've got ski resorts paying them tons of money,
Yeah.
right? And we don't have that type of stuff, that type of industry that owns a lot of land. So we do create arrangements with people at a city level and at a county level to make it so that there will be other revenue streams coming in. There's new growth money that comes into the county when land gets rezoned. So we have the land, like say over on the north end of Tooele, of the town, where all those Perry homes and those other builders are putting in a lot of homes. Well, that used to be agricultural land, so it was greenbelt taxed, which is very low tax. And now with the builders coming in, now they can give us new growth money. So that was money I went looking for, and I was like, okay, show me other revenue streams. And I talked to the assessor, to Allison McCoy. She was incredible to talk to, answering all of my questions, going with me through the math, sending me emails and visuals of more data so that I could pull things. I was talking to people with the city council about RDA monies, and other reimbursements, those types of things, talking with people at the county, really trying to work out all the different pieces. And the way that I was factoring it as I could see it, and this is just me, and I know probably there's people in the school board that could say, good for you, Nicolene, but you don't see this or you don't see this. I also talk to members of the school board a lot in this, trying to, me and Todd Thompson especially had tons of conversations. I went through a lot of math with him. I know he was doing tons of searching. So, really trying to work on this. And I was able to figure out with the different revenue streams. Initially, I thought, okay, I think I've found about 7.6 million that they could access with new growth funds, RDA funds from the city, as well as a reimbursement fund from the road. That goes over to the new high school. And then if they actually keep their tax rate where it was last year, which technically is still higher because the tax rate went up last year anyway, and actually that would still be higher than what was proposed with our new property valuations. But if they kept that rate, if they just didn't raise it and they kept it there and took in these other revenue streams, that we would actually probably come out okay and just need to cut maybe just a little bit and we'd probably be okay, was how it was looking to me in rounded numbers. Okay. I mean, I'm not the accountant and I don't have the line items. And so as I was going through just trying to find that 9.25 million, that's the type of stuff that I was looking at, trying to give them information so that hopefully they would take that advice and stick that. And if you were there when I spoke and I gave my my comment during the meeting, I said that. I said I recommend that you take a look at some of these RDA funds and these different things. They did seem to say that some of the RDA funds that we thought were there might not be there and might have been combined with new growth money because some of them had sunsetted. And so, which might have meant that the number had dropped a little bit, but I still felt like if you stick with the number from last year, it would be pretty good because we have more homes. So you have to keep in mind that all of these property tax numbers are just speculating.
Yes.
Okay, so they're like, we think we're going to get this much. Okay, and or we think that that we're going to need this much and we're going to go off the value of homes and we're going to base it off of what we got last year. But there's more homes. So if there's more homes, there's going to be more revenue. The cost of everybody's home has gone up, which also makes it so that you get more revenue. Now, when your cost of your home goes up, your rate actually goes down that you have to pay. And this is so it's not sticker shock every year. Okay. And so there's like this balance that happens. It's kind of like a sliding thing when so this is our rate from last year, and this was our price of home for last year. So when our price of home goes up here, it says, well, the school district said that they needed this much money. So that means our rate can drop, because now that our prices are up here and they still only need this much money, because that's how much they've always said they needed, we can now drop our rate down to here, which is better for our people. And that's the way that it's set up to run as far as the math goes in the county. And that's the simplest way to describe it.
Well,
So, but
on
if
my
they
last,
need more money, then the problem is, then they have to raise the rate. And that's what happened. So
well,
our
we're going to,
went up and the rate went up.
I got a letter last month that told me my house evaluation, whatever you get, and my house valuation went down, and so they increased my taxes. So that makes sense. They increased the amount, so I actually pay $16 more in taxes than, and my house dropped, $45,000.
This is what bothers me, though.
And so it's just we're just sitting. It's just, as I say, in the end, we're just going to be a smoking ruin of rich and renters, and everyone that, that got in on the market in that lower middle class. We're going to have to find somewhere else to live.
But isn't that kind of a switch at unrealized gains? I think it's such crap that they're going to assess my house for $1 million, a house that I'm not selling, that I pay for every single month, that I hope to grow old in and everything else. But then they're taxing me on about half of that value. And it's like, that to me is just, it's theft. If I was selling the house, yes, make me pay taxes on the house or whatever, but I'm not. And yet you're telling me you get to decide what my house is worth, and then you get to tax me based on that number. How is that not theft?
Yeah, I think you're really getting to the point that and really this has been talked about a lot recently, but wait, do we ever really own our house?
Never.
No.
If we have if we have to pay those property taxes. But the sad thing is that we have a structure set up as far as the revenue stream to pay for the police, the roads, the water, the whatever, all those infrastructure things. And then of course the schools, which is a huge
70-something% is the school. So I'm paying for police and roads with 20% of my property
it's minimal compared to the school.
Well, it's not just that, but it is kind of perverse when you drink it in. So let me lay this out for you. So you're born, you're a little wet child, know nothing. Then you become an adult, then you buy a house. When you're working, they put a heavy burden load on you, buying the house and paying taxes. And then when you're not working and you're hostage, you're a prisoner, this perverse load is lowered so they can steal money from you. Imagine what Thomas Jefferson would say if he popped out of the ground right now.
We all know.
They dressed up as Indians and went to the Boston Harbor and raided a ship for 3% tax on that good.
Mm-hmm.
And Thomas Jefferson was adamant it was property was in the Constitution as a right.
Committed to war against, at the time, the ultimate force on earth for that.
And
also we couldn't print our own money. We didn't like that. And also we didn't like writs of assistance. That's a housekeeping that I've been meaning to bring up. I said writs of sedition.
Okay,
many podcasts ago, but writs of assistance.
Well, also I was just along those lines, if we're going to go down the founders, justice is one of the things that's part of a person of good character, right? And when they said in the Declaration of Independence that it was all about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the term pursuit of happiness to them in their temperance society where they are focusing on self-government actually meant that. That's what it meant, according to Cicero. The pursuit of happiness actually meant that you were a self-governed person. Now, self-governed meaning that you're in control of yourself, that you're not angry, that you're going to be calm, you're going to work things through, you're going to fix all your problems that you've got on the inside. But it also means as a society that you would be a self-governing society. So the pursuit of happiness was this huge term to them.
Yeah, it was libertarian as I mean. It was freedom through responsibility.
It
Also, do you know what
absolutely.
the original phrase was? Life, liberty, and
Property.
property.
Well, yeah, property. Well, and
That was
actually, if you
that
read
was the
James
original.
Madison too. So James Madison wrote a whole essay called On Property. You'd probably really like that.
Hamilton forced him to take it out.
Well, because property actually meant more than just your
Yeah.
stuff too.
It was
Mhm.
people
So
too.
it meant your brain, which would mean that there's other things too, like as we're talking about teaching children and training and whatever, that we wouldn't be doing indoctrination, right? So because it meant that your own thoughts were actually part of your property. And no, they had an understanding so much deeper than we fully get about what they needed to protect. And truthfully, I'm really impressed at the Tooele citizens that came out to that Truth in Taxation meeting. There was a large crowd there. There was a lot of people engaging and doing their civic responsibility, listening. I know there was a lot of frustration. I mean, obviously, I understand, rightly so, because usually when you make an effort, you want it to do something, and it didn't feel like it did. I do think that meeting will not be soon forgotten by the school board. I think an impression was made. I think that they did listen. I know that people probably say, no, they didn't. They didn't care. I talked to some of them the next day at an event I happened to be at, and they did listen. They did hear, and they were like, well, we're going to be doing this and cutting this and and so they were talking about things, and I think they did hear, even though they didn't hear enough to change the votes.
I think the vote was made
Yeah.
long before that meeting.
I do too.
But I think that an impression was made, and if there's one thing that I could maybe give people, I was really thinking, because I'm slightly short on time tonight, but I was thinking, what could I give people at this podcast today? And hopefully I gave you a slight bit of an understanding that I have studied this issue a ton. I'm trying to keep a watch on it. I'm trying to help the best I can. But hopefully you're hearing from my comments that I'm having a conversation with this person, and a conversation with this person, and a conversation with this person. And let me tell you what, in all my years of advocacy for family issues and everything else, what I have learned is that's how you get things done. You don't get things done by getting emotional. You get things done by having a conversation with people. And so I go and I have the talks, and I have the talks. Now, the really hard thing about any type of policy stuff is that it's almost always a long game. It's very rarely a short game. Now,
Especially in government.
we have been so spoiled right now because Trump came in and he made a bunch of things a short game. He's like, that's done. That's done. Clean it out. And we're all like, it's like so exciting to see these things happen. And those are so rare. Those types of moments when it comes to policy creation.
Well, they'll go away though if he doesn't cement them in.
Well, because actually the next administration comes in and they'll go boom, boom. And so it's technically a battle axe approach. But when you're really talking about real policy creation, it is a long game always, and it requires endurance. And so what I wanted to give tonight was maybe a message of endurance to the community, okay? Because that's something I know about, all right? I started the topic about a lot of the filth and stuff that was in the school resources and databases and stuff back in 2018. And guess what? It's still not all the way fixed.
No.
I'm still working on it, and it's 2025. Okay.
Amazing.
And it's wild that you encounter so much hostility and roadblocking on that.
Well,
you would think that would just be common sense, like, oh my gosh, that slipped through. I apologize.
Yeah,
we will take care of this right now. And they're like, no, kids should definitely see pictures of that in third grade. What? I
I know, and I always tell people, I'm like,
I'm thinking
this is a
30 degrees on the
curated
blade of the
list here.
guillotine.
All right, there it is.
But
Yeah, so
I want to say something before we let you go.
She
well, I
wasn't
have to tell
done.
you something. I'm not done.
Go
I
ahead.
have to tell
Sorry.
you something. Okay, and then let me get my little what I want to give people tonight out, and then we can discuss for a minute, and then I'm probably gonna have to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, because we could talk databases and books and stuff forever. I have had 3 bills that I've helped get passed on it, but it still hasn't fixed it all because the problem is so intense. So this is kind of what I'm getting to, is that after something like that happens and emotions run high, it's really easy to get incited. Okay. So I have been with colleagues, people I admire, people that I can truly say I love and I've even learned from, and I see their emotions start to bubble and boil. And then I recognize, uh-oh, we're going to soon be ineffective, because once it gets to that point, we start being fanatical, we start being selfish, we start being power strugglers instead of advocates for truth, justice, order, all of those things that we need to have, right? And so it's so tempting to just be like, no, I'm going to tell you. And we could make an argument with for that, maybe sometimes there's a place for that. And I certainly know that Trump lets his emotions out all the time, and I think that in our emotional society right now, people really resonate with that. But when you're talking about creating a change in an issue like this, it could be a long game, which means it could be that we have to go talk to people again and again about, okay, what are the rules about this? What are the rules about this? What's the law that we could actually change? Or who's going to run for this? Let's start getting them ready to run for this seat, right? Or whatever. And we start to plan ahead of time. And we get people prepared by learning, how do the finances really work in there? Because I think the majority of people that go into a school board think, I'm going to make a difference, I'm going to help. And I think they're wonderful people usually. And people probably think that about them, but then they start being informed by the people who are in the district instead of informing the district, which is what they should be doing. And that's just because they don't understand. And so people need to start studying, they need to start preparing, they need to start looking ahead, they need to be calm, they need to be hopeful, they need to keep working at it. But don't lose hope and don't power struggle, because as soon as you start thinking you need to have your victory immediately, and that there's no other excuse for that because you're feeling emotional right now, because you're feeling taken advantage of, you will lose your respect and your ground with all the people you need to have conversations with. And so this is how we maintain just basic diplomacy. It's not taught that much in our society, but I want you to know it will go a long way. And if there's one thing that I can say, when I first got into things, I was much more emotional. I was much more volatile, even though by nature, well, I shouldn't say by nature, I'm a fireball, but I worked on my calmness for a really long time. But then there came to be a point where I got into a lot of these policy debates. And I remember one time I was at the UN, I was in New York, I was in a street protest because of stuff that was happening through the UN to children, and I was not okay with it. And I remember they turned a camera on me, and I remember that at that point I was yelling. You guys, this is very vulnerable. I've never told anybody this. I was yelling in that camera about how this was it was not right. And they turned the camera on me because they actually were like, Nicolene, you say something. And they knew that I had a level head, that I was calm, and that I usually was very diplomatic. But in that moment, I was emotional. And I started saying stuff in an emotional way because everyone around me was emotional, and I got caught up in the tide.
Yeah.
And then you know what happened is immediately I realized what I just said fell flat. It did nothing. It was about me. It was about my feelings. It was not about what was right and wrong. It was not about the principle. It was not about anything I could give. It was about what I wanted to take. And at that point, I was like, what did I do? And I had to face that I did not have the spirit of truth with me when I was behaving in that way, even though I did feel certain feelings that felt true to me. They weren't, it wasn't the spirit of truth that would touch the heart and create change to somebody else. And at that point, I said, that's it. Whenever I do a sidewalk campaign or anything else again, I will never be that person. I will
Well,
never
people
be that
stop
person.
listening
Well,
when you get too emotional. They'll stop listening, and that's what they call you, emotional or
And
an
so,
extremist.
so we
Well,
need
can I
people
be
to
your
work, talk, but we need to be so principled.
Can I be
So
your
level-headed.
Samuel to John Adams then? Because I want to say this stuff. I want to talk about guillotines. I want to talk about the temperature of the tar. I want to be that. I'm the John Hancock. You be Madison. You know, I'll be the blockade runner. You be the principled, educated one, and I'll be the firebrand.
So I
And
love
Samuel
you, Jared.
Adams
I
is
love
one
you.
of my personal heroes.
You know what? I love you, and I think there. And I'm not saying there's not any space for all the different personalities there are, but I'm just kind of throwing it out there with when you have the long game, you got to be strategic.
You be
And
strategic, and I'll be the spice.
I agree on you
But
with
I
you
wanna-
1000%. That you've got to keep your calm and keep it of facts and truth, and that message will go a lot further than emotions, because people need to feel that truth from you and trust you with it. And that is always better portrayed, I think, for the long term with calm and with sincerity,
Okay, I want
not
to
too
say
much passion.
this is totally off subject. So the other night, I'm getting ready for bed, doing whatever, not getting ready for bed, making dinner. It's when I was making the ribs, actually.
So while we were at the meeting,
yeah,
he was enjoying
No,
his
I started making the
ribs.
ribs at noon. I was fighting with them all day. But anyways, Katie and Jackson called me, Jared, come here. And they called me in kind of in a brush, and they're watching old reality TV shows. And they come in and they go, isn't that? And I look at the TV, and there's Nicolene with some English kids. Well, I don't know. The one they said was a boy. Still, jury's out, but they said was a boy.
What was it?
no,
They
he's
said it was a
fine.
boy.
No, I mean, what was the show? I
don't
don't
know.
care about.
Oh, it's called The World's
gender.
Strictest Parents. You can see it actually on my website.
Yeah, they brought some savage.
selfgovernment.com.
Wow! Congratulations.
Didn't
That's
the one
cool.
girl have like a child at like 8? Or
No,
however?
not at 8. She had a 10-month-old baby. She was 17. Both of them were 17-year-olds. But I mean, he'd been doing drugs and stuff since he was 8. That's one thing that was happening. There was a lot going on there. I mean, both of them were in a really, really bad situation. We could go into a lot of detail there. I have a lot of talks and stuff about that, but
we'll shelf that. But I just thought that was awesome. I was like, oh, there's Nicolene and Spencer. I was like, wow.
And I wanted to mention Spencer before you go. Spencer is running for city council in Tooele, and that vote is Tuesday, right? Everyone should have their ballots. And how's he doing?
He's doing good. You know, I'll tell you what, the person who struggled with that whole concept was me. I'll just be straight up with you about that. He said, I feel like I should do this, honey. He's like, I've really put a lot of thought into it. And I just feel like, he's like, I didn't plan on it, but I just feel like I should do this. And I was like, honey, are you crazy? Like, have you learned nothing? I'm like, you know how often my phone rings. You know how much time it takes to take everybody's complaints all the time when they think it's your fault, when it's probably not your fault. Like, you know. And he's like, I know, but for some reason I feel like I should. And for a whole month, I tried to talk him out of it. An entire month. And then I finally, did my own little soul searching, and I'm like, actually, you know what? He really is a good person for this. He's the best person for this.
Oh,
he's a good dude.
He's so level-headed, and you know what? He'll shuck and jive with you like nobody's business, Jared. So
yeah, he's a fun guy to talk to. I like your husband. And your husband, the dynamics you had with the girl and the boy. Mm-hmm. The hair was like some glue
Settle
thing
down.
that had red in it, and I was like, and a piercing on his face.
He's got to go.
Yes.
There was a lot of fashion consciousness there. Yes.
Yeah, they live in. I believe they come from what they call council home areas over there.
Yeah, they were welfare state, both of
Yes.
them. Yeah. Mhm.
And it's
I had no
it's
idea
tough.
that you were on a reality
Yeah,
show.
but we're gonna dig it
There's
up.
other parenting programs and news programs that have been made of us too. So there's a lot of things
Mhm.
out there. That's what most people know me for. So
How
yeah.
funny. And I
All
just
right.
know you as Tooele's legislator that actually answers the phone to complaints and shows up to these meetings. And your schedule is insane. I'm so grateful for the work you're doing. And I was grateful to Bridger also. I got to meet with him. And I'm really proud of what's going on and the accountability that I feel we have with you guys. And I mean, this could go a long way with the school board. And so I have asked if people are interested in running for these seats. I'm available to talk to you. I've had a couple people reach out already. And I think that's how we make change, is that we have enough. We've had enough. And we want to see policy changes, and we want to see collaboration with our city, our county, our state, and federal. We need everybody together to come up with better policy that actually makes sense and does not put all the burden on the middle class, especially because
Yeah.
it is the middle class is disappearing.
Well, the middle class is gone. Now it's lower middle class. Let's protect what's left of that. Anyways, thank you very much, Nicolene.
Absolutely true. You guys, it's been so wonderful to be with you, and I appreciate you listening to me just go on and on about it, and hopefully it was useful to somebody.
Yeah.
I certainly did not mean to preach to the choir, but hopefully just a little bit of those thoughts could make a difference, because I do feel like we have a great opportunity right now. With however all the people who are civically engaged because of this issue, it has hit home in a way that could unify our community to like work on things together, and that's what I'm really hoping will happen. That the dialogues will just start opening up, and that the people will just start talking, and we'll be able to get some of these problems solved. But I'm going to keep working. So anyway, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And
Thank
definitely
you.
vote for my husband in the upcoming. I mean, I'm biased. I'm
Spencer Peck.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Tooele City.
Yep.
All
We
right.
had him on 3 weeks ago.
Thanks, Nicolene. Give our
Yep.
best to the family.
Have a good
Will do.
night.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye. All right. Now Camille Knutsen's jumping on real quick.
Camille, I thank you for waiting.
Yes.
And I know this was a last minute deal. Can you give us a heads up if you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Excellent. So I would love to hear your point of view on Tuesday night. I know you did a lot of research and you have experience on the board yourself. And I would like to know what got us here? What got us to this position, in your opinion, with the school board? And what are your thoughts about Tuesday?
Oh, that's I feel like a loaded question. Okay. So I think there's a lot of things that got us to where we're at right now. But I want to address first. So I didn't attend in person on Tuesday, of course. I watched it from home. So everyone, as you know, the audio was terrible and it was kind of hard to hear a lot of the comments. But I knew, one, that they were already prepared for a large crowd, or otherwise they wouldn't have done it at Tooele High. And of course, with every Truth in Taxation meeting, there's always a lot of passion, and usually it's mostly people who disagree, right? So,
Right.
I mean, out of my 4 years of being on the board, I can't honestly think of one Truth in Taxation meeting where someone came in and said, we support you increasing your taxes. It just doesn't happen that way. But I was listening to the comments and trying to understand, it's just really hard. And I agree with Nicolene a lot on this. I understand the passion and the concerns and the anger and the frustrations, but that's not how you get anything done. And so I was hoping that people were going to come to that meeting and say, we want more communication from you. We want X, Y, and Z, something that was just more than just saying we're upset that our taxes are being increased. Because whether everyone likes it or not is what is in place to fund our schools. So if we don't agree with it, if we don't want our property taxes to go towards funding schools, then we need to change the process, regardless of how difficult it is, like what
I
Nicolene
absolutely
said.
agree.
My question is
So-
why do the taxes have to keep going up?
No, and that's the
growth.
part that I don't agree with either. I wanted them to
Because
just adopt the certified rate and not have to increase them. And I'm not
the
sure
growth
why
should
they
pay
felt they chose
for.
they had to.
Shouldn't the growth pay for its own entrance into the school system, or do we have to fund if some wayward child wanders through our county? Do we have to fund them until they pass through the other side? Is that what we're looking at now?
Well, and also to my point of what I said earlier, so school districts, their enrollment numbers are at least a year behind, in some cases 2 years behind. So when you have these families that move in with 5 kids on average, well, where are you going to put them? So we build a school and it has to go on the taxpayers' dime now because you can't wait 10 years to build a school, but we're not going to receive that funding for another 5 years based on those enrollment numbers. So it's like we're always playing a catch up. And until we get those systems updated and showing the actual enrollment numbers, we're always going to have a catch up problem.
And we're living in a digital age for one. Enrollment
Right.
numbers, funding, everything can be done like that now. So what's bothering me so much is the policy. I feel like the policy is the biggest problem, and it's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And yet, if the policy from the federal government all the way down to the most local school board, that needs to be fixed. How do we address this? How much funding does this person get? We need to build schools that actually have growth in mind, not stuck on this policy where we have to build a school this size and then it's bursting at the seams in the first 5 years it's open. I mean,
Right.
policy. So how do we, I guess what Nicolene was saying is that it takes collaboration from everyone and it takes time. I think the people are sitting through a really hard economic time. And what I heard in that meeting was a lot of people pleading with these people to understand they cannot take another bounce in their price of their house, their monthly payment. They can't afford to lose their home. And, it's not a good economic time for tax hikes. It's not a good look. And then to vote, after and still vote for it without much talking cutting or much talking communication, or I just felt really like it was an in your face situation that got people just riled up, even if that wasn't their intention. That's what
No, and
I'm hearing.
I agree with you 100%. But I would also encourage you, because like I said, I disagreed with the tax increase and listening to the stories and trying to understand where everybody was coming from. But I also have been in that situation before. And the flip side to that, too, is, and a couple of board members mentioned it, but I also don't think people realize how many other conversations had gone on while those board members were doing their due diligence, right? They're in schools, they're out talking to community members. 2 of those board members have kids that are on the football team with my son. So I see them every week at football games. And they actually didn't go to the first football game the other night because they've been receiving threats after that meeting the other night. To me, like, that's not the way that we treat other people in our communities. And we may not have agreed with what their vote was, but that doesn't mean that they're not out talking to people, and there's not another side to all of this that we need to consider and really try to understand where they're coming from.
What was this
Again,
side
I don't agree
considered?
with the vote, but that's what I don't know
Here's the
all
hard
of the
part
sides that they listen to.
is we need to break this down because they're raising tax with a threat.
Right.
That's
Well, they didn't
what
receive
it
the threat
is.
till after.
Well, no, the tax is raised with an implied threat. They have a monopoly. The government has a monopoly. Don't pay your taxes, see how it pans out for you. And then they just keep jumping these raises down. How do they expect the community to
React.
embrace
I
that?
agree. No, I agree.
And
And I think there's
this
lots
isn't
of,
just them. This is all government.
right.
This is all
Yeah.
government top to bottom. Our government hasn't been providing us with what they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So far, there's essentially, right now, I'd say the only government in this county that's really providing us with what they're supposed to would be our law enforcement side.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that's the only one that's honestly put forth an effort and shown success.
Well, and I agree with you too, Jared. Like, at what point do you say when is enough enough, and how big does the school district need to get, first of all? But on top of that, too, the impact of voting for an increase, then how does that impact the county council? I would love to see more economic development happen in our county, and I would love to have a team of economic developers come in and bring in lots of businesses, so all of our taxes will go down. Can you imagine what would happen to the county council if they tried to raise taxes now to hire a couple people? There's no way. Or if the sheriff's department wanted to raise taxes to bring more sheriffs to help EMS services out at 5 Mile, no way. You are not going to pass taxes and increase anything for years to come because of that one meeting. And whether they did listen to both sides, I'm not there. I don't know. The perception, though, is bad, and I don't know how they'll overcome it all.
It's ugly, and it's ugly on all government right now. And let's face it, universally, the government is the most unpopular thing in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk just got voted worse.
It rates up there with like warts and toe fungus.
Oh yeah, I think that cockroaches are more popular than Congress.
And that's kind of where we're sitting, because
we're an untrusted society.
Because we're overregulated. We can't bring businesses in. You know, my dream would be if we could get not more retail businesses, because they don't pay anything. They don't cause any labor market competition. We need labor market competition, but you know, we're not getting that.
But those companies go to societies that have great test scores and are putting out students.
Well, they also go to societies
work for them, and that is like a big circle, right? It all comes back around. If our kids aren't well educated, businesses don't want to hire them or come here. They'll go to a better, society, area, and then yet, if the school's not getting enough funding or whatever their reasons are, it's a big circle that we need to get inside and figure out where the problem is. There's a spoke in there that is broken, and we've got to figure out how to replace it.
One of our biggest threats right now to this county is that lake drying up. That's cutting a lot of business.
Our biggest businesses, yeah.
He's
referring to the Great Salt Lake.
Yeah,
folks.
The Great Salt Lake drying up is killing. We don't have water, and they're building up north where the water comes from, and so that water's being peeled off to support the new houses. So we're not going to stop that, and this county needs to figure that out. I mean, when we talked to Brad the other night, he brought it up, and he's 100% correct. But
Brad Pratt is who he's referring to.
Yeah, that lake dries up, and we're going to lose. A couple of good businesses out
and
here.
high paying jobs.
The Army depot went away. We're losing that. We're going to get hollowed out unless we figure a way through this. And I'm not saying, I'm sure our county council and our city council's working hard on it. I have a burr in my butt about the school system because the schools have been overly failing, like above and beyond all other. And I don't know where, I know you can pin the blame on an ideological capture, I believe. But, it's not going to change because that ideological capture, it's ingrained now. And unless we change our requirements for teachers, that's what we're going to get for now until we see a societal collapse. That's what it'll look like. And then it'll be ugly and brutal, and we'll have to learn how to, poke fingers in bullet holes to stop the blood.
So I was wondering, Camille, what are your overall thoughts on this? Because I know this has to be perplexing for you. You live where I live, and we've seen a really big tax increase over the last 3-4 years. It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, what are your thoughts? Because would you want to run for the school board again, or is that one thing you would never do?
I don't know. I've had actually quite a few people reach out to me this week and ask me a lot of questions about what is going on. How do I find accurate information? It is interesting how much information is out there that's not accurate. So that is one thing that I would encourage people. I as much as I love to Google everything, and I do, it's not always going to give you the most accurate information. So if you're looking for financial information or compensation, whatever it is, go to the school district website, because they legally do have to report those numbers. They have a certain amount of days that they have to announce what their budget is going to be, and they have to follow that budget very closely. I do know, talking to numerous board members and community members, I feel like this is a really, really low point for not only the board and our schools, but our community. And I would hope that all of us would come together, and instead of finger pointing and fighting and tearing each other apart, why don't we build each other up? Let's find some solutions. Let's make things better. That's what's going to bring businesses here, not us pushing against each other saying how horrible everything is. We have got to figure out that light at the end of the tunnel and the best way to dig ourselves out of this hole that we're in. And it's not just going to come from the board. It has to come from parents. It has to come from students. It has to come from all of us. And honestly, I like what I'm doing now. I like kind of chiming into your show every once in a while, and I've missed out on these conversations and not being at the forefront. But there's another part of me too that I know I wouldn't have voted for the tax increase. I don't know that I would have been able to influence any of the other board members. I do disagree with Emily on a few things. That's who represents me. But I also don't know right now, with what my day job is, I don't know that I could dedicate enough time and energy to be the board member that we need. So I don't know. At this point,
just curious.
I'm good.
Where do I look on this? Where do I look on this website to find that breakdown?
What, salaries or who voted what?
Well, I want to know where all the money's going, because I've heard tell that they've got a lot of vehicles that are leased to the.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Okay, so a few years ago, so before a few years ago, the board was looking at finances and how much money was going out. And what the board was actually doing was reimbursing mileage for everybody. So you realize we have schools out in Wendover, Ivapaw, Dugway. So you have administrators driving out there for school visits, for whatever is going on, right? But we have a large geographic county where you have employees driving all over. So they were submitting for mileage reimbursements, and it was costing the district a lot of money. So they looked into leasing vehicles. So different departments like teaching and learning, they have one vehicle for maybe 10 or 15 employees, depending on whoever's in that department. The IT department has their own vehicle, and they all kind of share and use that vehicle to drive around. And looking at the analysis of the leased vehicles versus the mileage reimbursement, leasing the vehicles was a lot cheaper than doing mileage reimbursement.
Okay, let me ask, what was their mileage reimbursement rate?
Whatever the federal rate is.
Okay.
Because I don't think legally they could do more or less. I think they would have to do whatever that amount is.
If it's pinned to the federal rate, then because I just think that I don't know. I don't know what's all in the schools, but it just seems like I just hear these things that someone, a whistleblower, reached out and said,
we've had a couple.
They have parking lots of vehicles that are leased that never move. Never.
And then you don't own them.
They've got, I don't care about the owning. It's just money.
It's spending money that you don't get any return on.
I like the leasing idea because you can return them if they break. But, and
then they're not paying for maintenance and the issues.
Yeah. But, and leasing is actually cheaper than buying in the short term.
Especially if you're not doing anything with it.
But that they're just sitting there parked. And I'm like, that sounds like, even if that sums up to, all told $80,000, that sounds like something that should be accounted for. Would it be cheaper if they just bought 2 vans and the vans made circuits? And if the people need to get to one of the different schools, they get on the vans and the vans kick off in Tooele and drive by
Ride the
all the
bus.
different schools all out to Wendover and then come back and hit Skull Valley and
Holly,
Yeah.
there's not even enough buses to bus our kids around right now. There wouldn't be for
I'm
employees,
curious.
but it's a
Can
good
you tell
idea.
me- Can you tell me why an administrator needs to make so much money and then directors underneath them need to make $200,000 a year? Is it because of the degrees they have?
That's part of it, but most of it is because of Salt Lake. One year we lost over 70 teachers, and I don't even know how many administrators to go work for schools along the Wasatch Front because they could go around the mountain and make $20,000 or $30,000 more a year.
Yeah, that's
So
same happened with our law enforcement too.
let me ask you a
So
question.
the board had to increase not only teacher salaries, but administrator salaries and the superintendent salaries when Scott Rogers left, because otherwise we wouldn't have a competitive salary and be able to compete with Salt Lake.
But
There's no
are our
way.
superintendents, it's a dumb question, but how much overall importance to the education of the children does the superintendent make?
Well, there's the liaison, basically. So the school board hires the superintendent, right? The superintendent oversees all of the day-to-day operations. So he's responsible for how much in the weeds he gets. He's responsible for all of the daily operations in 27 buildings, over 5,000 employees, and 16,000 students.
He's like a county manager. He's accountable to the school board, but he's not accountable to the public. The school board, he answers to them, who we elect, just like a county council and the county manager. Day-to-day operations, but the school board does the legislative part.
Hold on. You say 27 buildings and all that, but I want to know like how much is he over? Is he signing off on everything they do?
There's no way.
Is he a person that says, hey, I see your test scores come out. Let me come out and coach you and get you right.
That's what he needs directors for.
Yeah. So it would be like,
what I'm asking is he blow? We've heard stories about that county in Texas that did away with their superintendent and had the principals run it directly. And I don't know how much they're saving, but
I don't know. Yeah. So how do you hold? Because to me right now, one of the things that I feel like
accountable is our superintendent held accountable when we lose.
Well, so one of the things that I think is one of our major problems right now, and this is just me looking from the outside in, is our school board needs to let the superintendent do his job. Our school board is very involved. And if you look at how many committees there are and all of even they talked about creating another one the other night.
Yeah.
The superintendent needs to be able to do his job. And right now he has a board member at all of these committees, all of the meetings he's doing. And every time he tries to do something, he's turning around, verifying with 7 other people if that's okay for him to do what he needs to do. That's not an efficient or an effective way to run an organization. And so I think
what you pay him for.
Yeah. And I think that's honestly, it's one of our biggest problems. So I don't know where you work at, Jared, but if you think about like who your boss is or, the upper people, they're not going to sign off on every little thing, but they're, the big things they're going to be aware of. But I think at this point, with how involved you have board members, and it seems to me like they're not asking the right questions. There's different things that need to be happening, and they're not letting him be effective and do what he needs to do to run the district in the way that it needs to be run.
So how do we make that look? Because we're paying this guy a lot of money and we're still getting
and the
worse
directors
test scores
too below him.
Yeah.
And
I think a big part of that
look to him the same way. And then do the teachers look to the principals the same way? I don't know.
Right.
But
I think a big part of it is this next election and asking who runs for school board. Are you willing to go online and communicate with the rest of us? Are you willing to be transparent and spoon feed us the information that we need? There's something like 200 acronyms that education uses. And most people don't know what all those acronyms are. So instead of talking to me in acronyms, talk to me like I'm sitting at my kitchen table and explain to me why you need this tax increase. And I don't know that a lot of board members right now are willing to do that because of the retaliation and the different things that are going on. But I think that's what we need to look for with candidates. And then also too, are they willing to let a superintendent do his or her job, right? And we're seeing a lot of superintendents across the whole state retire. There's a lot of new superintendents. And I think a big part of that is just like education overall. You don't have people willing to be teachers. They don't want to come into the classroom. There's behavioral issues, lack of fun, you name it. And until we address some of those things when we're vetting our candidates, we're going to have the same problems over and over again.
Yeah,
Well-
and we need to know, I at least need to know, are you as a candidate are you going to advocate for me and the students? Are you going to advocate for a collaboration with other electeds and let them in and go to them? And are you going to try to make an effort to get policy changed and not just ask for more money? And these type of things have to be at the very level of every candidate right now. We need them all working together. And I've stressed that on the party side with the mayor candidates. It's so important that we know who they are and that they work with our legislators, they work with our senators, and they work with other local governments, because we're a stronger county together. I mean,
well, and I think more importantly that they're willing to communicate with their constituents. One of the things I love about Bridger is not every time, but when there's a question or a vote up at the Hill, he'll text or email all of his delegates and ask them their opinion on a vote. Or Nicolene coming on this show. There's not very many legislators that communicate with constituents. A lot of them say, well, if you have a question, you can contact me. And both Bridger and Nicolene are not that way. And we need school board members to be that same way too. They need to be willing to come and talk to people and get on social media and be out in the communities more, and letting them know what's going on and why they vote the way that they do.
I want to make them at least famous in the way that I want people to know who their board member is, just as much as I want them to know who Nicolene or Bridger is, who the senator is. I want them to know, because they are so powerful, and so many people don't realize who is representing them on that level until something like Tuesday night happens. And now everybody's got it on their mind and they're already angry at whoever it is.
Yeah.
And yet now they're looking for information. So you say that we go to TooeleSchoolDistrict.org. Is that where they have the meeting with the minutes and stuff?
I'm at the Tooele School District.
If you go down, they should show minutes on
Or
the
actually go to departments and then business services.
See, that's hidden.
business services. Excellent. So that'll give us the annual financial report, annual program report, and audited financial statements and report. So I'm just going to put that in the text here. So it's Tooele School District. Is it school district? Or Tooele Schools?
Schools.org. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, one, as a county, we sit at a crossroads. Well, let me lay it out like this. We've hit the bedroom community growth to where we're going to suffer long term.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we are. We need to figure out how to bring more manufacturing and fabricating and more of the higher paying jobs, not the, we can't afford this community on stores and new restaurants. We need more actual paying jobs out here. And then let's face it, we are 3 cities that are going to end up supporting a whole county.
Well, technically, Stansbury is not a city, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's
Going to
true.
end up supporting a whole county. And And then the county's going to keep coming. I would like to say hat in hand, but they don't show up like that. They show up and you put your hat in your hand because you know what they're going to do to you. And they're going to rob us from this market. They're going to make it so that we can't stay around. Keep raising the taxes. I will just leave.
Well, a lot of people
I'll
will
have
leave.
to.
Yeah.
And businesses won't come unless they get a tax
And-
deal.
and
And
it's
then they get that tax deal, and that just takes from the people.
And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we live in a huge county where most of the viable land belongs to the federal government. So we can't lean on that for services or manufacturing or anything. We've got a lake that's drying up. The lake provides two of the better paying, manufacturing jobs in the county. And, what are we going to do? So, and until we cross that threshold to where growth is warranted, that past that growth point, like Orem did 15, 20 years ago.
Lehigh.
Lehigh crossed it in the last 10 years.
But that a lot is the technical, and we've
That's the
tried. Our
bleed
county
over
has
from Orem.
tried to get silicone slopes
We
type
just don't have the
development
water.
out here. Water is an issue, but also those companies don't really look to Tooele County maybe as a great place for their employees to work and live. I mean,
Well,
all these things are considered when big business is coming to a new area.
and that's
Kentucky
one of
just
the
got
things.
Apple. Did you see
Yeah,
that?
and that's one of the things I would love to see us start to promote more. And I know Speaker Schultz was behind it through the session and was out for their graduation ceremony, but Tooele Technical College, they just expanded their building because they have so many students there. And then, we have we teach 7 different languages on the elementary up to high school level in our district. Why are we not promoting that and letting people know that we have bilingual kids in our district that have this awesome technical college right here that I want to work and are willing to work and do all these things. And I feel like it's just something we never talk and communicate with.
Somehow it gets lost, doesn't it?
Well, marketing's expensive, and I can tell you that, again, that would be a county expense that probably would require more taxes. And that's just something, like you said, the perception is out there. It's bad. And I know, because I do talk to the electeds, that it is not a good time financially for people to raise any taxes. It looks bad. It feels bad. And they also want to get reelected and get some projects done and completed. But it's a scary time to go after taxes right now. And that's another thing about the school board that makes me so angry, is because it was so blatant in your face. It was like, we've already made our minds up. We're going to go through the motions. Thank you for your comments. And we voted 5-2 that we need this tax rate. And yet, instead of putting it together on a PowerPoint that was so descriptive, here is our expenses. Here's what we're cutting.
Yeah, it sounds like he could have shut him down with information.
Yeah, possibly.
Melissa says it was super unprofessional to have the superintendent falling asleep at the meeting.
I was too far away to see that.
Yeah, I've seen the picture floating around. I've seen the picture floating around, and I mean, he does look like he's asleep. I don't know if maybe his eyes were closed when someone took the picture.
Maybe
I don't know. I'm not there.
When you were on
he
Zoom,
could have been working for 20 hours that day too. Who knows,
When you were on Zoom, did you get to see the board while the meeting was going on?
Not really. It would kind of flash to him every once in a while, but it was farther away, so it wasn't like you could get up close.
I never saw anyone sleeping, but then again, I was so far away. If you watched my live video, will give you an idea how far away I was.
Yeah.
But I know just from being on the board, when I sat in some of the Truth in Taxation meetings, and none of mine were ever that long or that passionate. I would have people say things to me too, like, why won't you look at me? Why don't you talk to me? Or why are you rolling your eyes? And I'm like, I didn't realize I did. Like, I'm trying to listen and understand what's going on. And I don't know if sometimes people come across as wrong, or maybe he did fall asleep. I don't know because I wasn't there, but I also think we should give them a little bit of grace because they were sitting up there for 3 hours being yelled at. So that's kind of a difficult situation too. So
Right.
Yeah, and I wasn't even there.
Yeah.
But it is tough, but they did volunteer for that. That is a
Right.
voluntary position, along with that superintendent. If he did fall asleep at it, they should have a coming to Jesus meeting in the back room right after, because he's making a lot of money. I don't care, because when I was a buck private, I was making what, $12,500 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And if my happy butt fell asleep when I was in something I was supposed to be doing, it'd get rough. So
Yeah. Like
his happy
my
butt
Marine.
making that much a day should be able to
How
cope.
is your Marine, by the way?
He's good. He actually just came home and he was here for a couple weeks visiting. And speaking of trying to stay awake, he started smoking, so that keeps him awake when he's on duty.
Oh, geez.
Tell him not to smoke. Tell
I
him
did.
tell him that's going to be a habit
He
that
can never kick.
he's gonna so regret.
I
Tell him
know.
to take the coffee packets, pack it in his mouth like tobacco.
And it's just coffee.
Or at the most, if the nicotine will keep you awake, use that fake nicotine chew. Tell him don't let those, just the destruction. As a person who smoked while they were in the service for a lot of the same reasons.
Well, Tucker Carlson pushes something on his show, which is basically it's a caffeine pack, and you just stick it in your lip, and
they've got those,
and it's no nicotine, but it gives you the caffeine and it keeps you awake. But where's he stationed? Is he in California or?
Nope, he's at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. So yeah, he's got about a year and a half left. And of course, when he's home, I'm not re-enlisting. I'm coming back home. I said, where are you going to live? I don't know where you're going to get a house, all that stuff. But we'll see what happens. He spent a few months in Norway doing cold weather training. And yeah, he's doing good. He's 21, lots of energy, lots of things going on. Couldn't keep up with him. But yeah, he's doing good.
Well, we appreciate his service, and I appreciate he went in under a horrendous commander-in-chief. So I bet you're kind of relieved that we have a different president, at least, hopefully, that it stays peacetime. I mean, but how does he love the humidity? North Carolina,
he hates it.
like to come home to a dry.
Mm-hmm. He hates the humidity. He's like, if I do re-enlist, I want to go to Pendleton. So I'm a little bit closer to home and not the humidity and all that.
And he's guarding a gate. And
should I be signing up for Japan or a med float? I would.
A med float?
Yeah.
He does want to do a MEU, but
Mediterranean float. I would sign up for a Mediterranean float in a heartbeat.
Do they send the Marines to the Mediterranean?
Yes, they have Marines floating around with their fleets.
Wow.
Yeah, he's heavy artillery though, so I don't know that they would, but he would love to do that too.
Gosh, because you get to see Greece. Well, you could re-enlist for new MOS,
That's true.
Yeah,
we'll see. I think he kind of just wants to come home though too,
Yeah. That humidity is terrible. I would just come home for that. So he doesn't have to change his shirt every 5 minutes. And have that peace with mom and dad again, and maybe go to Lake Powell. That's what he's missing. I totally get it. You guys, how are you doing? Are you feeling better and everything good?
I am. Yeah, I'm doing a lot better. Yeah. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I was sorry to see you missed a vacation this year, but I'm sure you can make it up, right?
I hope so. We're hoping September, but I don't. Now my other son does varsity football, and varsity football is more time consuming than anything else in the world. So
yeah, that's the truth.
Let me ask you a question about this new Shadow of the Temple, the Saturday morning drowners, as they were.
You got to explain it because not everyone knows what you're talking about.
Oh, the Saturday morning Shadow of the Temple High School over there.
He's talking about Deseret Peak High School.
The Shadow.
I was like, I don't know what you mean. Okay.
You need to name it the Shadow of the Temple High School.
Named it.
And it needs to be called the Saturday Morning Drowners. But
I got yelled at for naming it Deseret Peak High School.
Oh, if they'd have let me name stuff, things would be so much
You
more.
could have.
Yeah, they took a vote, but you don't vote.
I know.
So
Anyways, so what's this thing there that they're newcomers to their football team, newcomers from other schools that are coming to that school can't play? Is it the first 5 games
all of
So-
them are
on their
newcomers.
varsity team? So this sounds to me now, aside from the selfish thing that why can't my nephew play varsity, the thing that gets me is, are they making it because it's a brand new school? So they've got this rule in so that either they're going to forfeit the first 5 varsity games, which sets them back and kills morale, or is it going to be throw the freshmen at the Wolves and see how this pans out? Because they'll be the only ones not coming from a different school.
That's crazy.
Why are they doing this? What is up with that? That is, and I emailed them again. I get lots of great response from the school district every time I reach out. We've asked them to come on this show. We have. And
Right.
and they blew that email
Have
off
you
just
heard
as
of
quick
this?
as if I asked them
Yeah.
if they wanted
What's
to be
up?
Yeah.
flogged.
So my son was actually going to go to Deseret Peak.
Temple. Go on.
Yeah. So, and I didn't even think about it, but UHSAA, so Utah High School Athletic Association, has certain rules or guidelines in place that kind of governs student athletes across the state. And one of them to prevent, so for example, a lot of students want to go to Alta High School because there's a lot of funding and they want to go to school there. So then recruiters see them and then they can go to really good colleges, right?
Might
Well, to
win it.
prevent all of the best players in the state to all go to Alta High School, UHSAA has a guideline in place that if you transfer schools on a varsity team, you can only play 50% of the time. So
But
in
it's
Deseret Peak,
cool. You're not
yeah,
really
so Deseret Peak being a new school, so what they decided to do were kids that actually lived in the boundaries wouldn't have to adhere to that 50% rule. They could still play the varsity team like they normally would.
Okay.
But my son, who we live just outside of Deseret Peak boundaries, would be considered out of boundary. So he would be subject to that 50% rule. So
That
that's why
makes
he decided not go to Stansbury or not go to Deseret Peak,
Your
because he's
nephew's-
like, I'm guaranteed a full varsity, the starting line basically on the varsity team where I'm playing 100%, where I'd only play 50% at Deseret Peak.
Yeah, and then he's playing in his own school that he's grown up in and all of that, which is awesome.
Right.
But I get it. That makes sense because a lot of kids are going to try to go to that new school because it's
Mhm.
new and they're out of boundaries. And for the kids who live there, who that school was meant for, it does make sense to me to give them first shot at varsity. But
Right.
that's a pretty nice football stadium, and it's collegiate looking. And I
Yeah.
thought I saw box seats in it when
It's going to
I
be
drove by.
fantastic to watch the Saturday morning Drowners have a really rough
That
first
is
season.
really inappropriate. Like it's mean.
How does that mean?
What do you mean drowners? You were talking about baptism?
Yeah, the Saturday morning Drowners.
No
That's when
one's
you
drowning.
do baptism. Well, you got to give it a name. Saturday morning Dunkers.
Okay, that's better.
Saturday morning foot floppers, whatever you want to call it. But
It will be interesting though, because I know, this, I told you we had the black and silver game or whatever it was the other night with Stansbury, and then they had their black and gold game at Deseret Peak. And that was the first time my son didn't take the field with a lot of his same teammates since he was 8 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, it will be interesting to see, like when the two teams play against each other in October, and just kind of the rivalry of, old teammates and all within our community. Just as much fun as it is going to the games when we play Tooele. Like I'm looking forward to our football games this year. I think it's going to be a great year. So
Oh yeah, that's exciting.
I hope so. They're gonna have to stack that football team with a lot of players to get that 50% on a varsity.
I do love the small town feel of Friday Night
that or-
Lights, though. I just
Yeah.
love it, especially when we have these rivalries. And my kids
Mhm.
is Stansbury, and I love football so much, and I like to just go watch. And I'm going to watch for your
I
kid,
gotta
and
see
I'm
what
going to
Dave's
cheer
saying now.
you
You'll
on.
you'll have to. He's the tallest kid on the team. He's 6'6".
Holy
wow.
cow!
Yeah, we do need to cut out. But Melissa says she was there and he was drifting in and out of sleep. That's got to be tough. Woo.
Yeah.
Man,
It's not a good look.
I can't imagine making over 300,000 a year and falling asleep at a taxation meeting to justify me making anyways.
I know the perception is terrible, but I think that Nicolene made a great point. We need to just get as much information as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Camille, you have been a wealth of information through this. I can't thank you enough. You've shared so much on the posts that I've made just to get people to go and get direction on this and this and this. And I really appreciate you. But I always appreciate you. You're just a great person and a great citizen, and you're engaged. My goal is to make sure people keep this top of mind, especially in election year next year, and that these board members also consider joining us for the show and at least joining us for, candidate nights like you did. You set the bar for me when it comes to a candidate that really just wants to let people know who they are, what they're about, and then listen to the people. And that's what you did when you ran for school board. So I guess I got a little bit, I don't know, cocky in thinking that we'll know who our school board members are. Maybe more will do this, but then no one else did it. So you are an amazing person, and I appreciate your work and your passion.
I appreciate
And
you guys and everything you guys do.
Well, I just sit and talk smack. You're very welcome, though, for my talk smackiness. But no, thank you for being available all these times. You come on and sad to say, you come on and take the hot seat for a lot of other people sometimes too. And that's that's very noble of you.
Well, I guess my frustration is, like I said earlier, is I see all the misunderstanding or misinformation that's out there. And I have a hard time just sitting by and not chiming in and trying to help others learn and understand. And I know education stuff is so complicated. And I even like Nicolene's point, the education finances and there's just so much to understand and learn. But it does me no good to sit around and say, I know all this information if I don't share it with anybody. So I would rather help everyone understand it so that we're all on the same page and we understand what's happening. So I appreciate you guys and giving this avenue to people, whether they listen to it live or go back and listen, whatever it is, so that they can learn from each other and we can hear other perspectives and again, just learning from each other. I think it's important in what we need to do. So thank you.
Do you have any plans to run for anything in the future?
At this time, I don't. Like I said earlier, I really enjoy what I'm doing. I'm at the Department of Agriculture and Food, and I'm still really involved with legislation, and I really enjoy it. So, yeah, I mean, our filing period is in 5 months. So who knows what will happen over the next 5 months, but right now, I'm good with how things are. So,
well, I'm glad you're a neighbor, and I'm glad you're a friend, and I'm so grateful that you would spend your Friday night hopping on here with us and give us some perspective. And Melissa says all of your guests have been very informative. Thank you, and that sums it up. It's information that we care about. We want to educate, hopefully inspire, and hopefully empower our people that are listening and giving us their time, because we don't want people to feel like they have no say, even though he knows that we have no say. But I'm still hopeful.
We want to make them feel like they have a say. They don't have a say.
I believe we can still make a difference, and that this country's not burning to the ground. He's the opposite, and that's what makes us have fun, I think, at the show. But
that and the talk of
of guillotines, right? But Todd Stewart, thank you for all your comments, and we of course thank Nicolene, we thank Camille, we thank Chad Saunders tonight, Melissa,
Dave,
of course,
Adriana, Chad. Everyone, thank you for coming on.
Your husband as well.
Thank you for joining us.
I don't see his name up here. Where is he at?
Yeah, I think he might have gone to bed. He had to be to work at 4 a.m. So, but it's
Oh, well,
Tony.
I'm glad he hung in there.
Yeah.
He's up higher.
Well, I have to wake up at 3 a.m.
That's if you don't get
Oh.
a call.
If I don't get a call. Again, Marcus, Jordan, everyone, thank you for joining us. Thank you for
Yes.
the comments. That's as high as it's letting me go.
Is Stansbury Days tomorrow?
Next week.
Next week.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I
but
always
yeah,
feel
I'm
like
on
I'm gonna miss
Facebook.
it.
So I'm on Facebook. If people do have questions or they're wondering where to find that information I was telling you about earlier with the finances,
Yeah.
feel free to message me. I'm more than happy to help direct people or help educate whatever. If you're looking at one of the budgets and you're like, what does this mean? Or an acronym, whatever it is, let me know. I'm happy to help answer or find someone who will answer a question for us. Yeah, so there's tons of information out there. Just, if you're wondering where to go, what to do, reach out and I'll do what I can.
I'm gonna tag you in the comments. And so
Okay.
people that want to reach out to her Facebook page, please do so. And I mean, she's a wealth of information. She's been very, very helpful.
And I'm going to go onto that budget and look up how much each paddle costs.
Yeah, so those budget sheets I gave you are for FY24. If you want to see the budget for this upcoming year, you need to go to their June board meeting and you'll see the proposed budget information there.
Is there a board meeting, like Chad said, on the 12th? Would that be on the website?
Yeah, it should be on just under Board of Education information, but usually there's usually at least 2 board meetings every month. So I would be surprised if there wasn't. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Camille.
Thank you, you guys.
Have a great weekend, friend. Bye.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye. All right. So, they talked us off the cliff.
You guys have tuned in for this, and we're really grateful. I know it was a long show. We are trying so hard to, again, educate each other and learn. Jared and I don't know everything, and if anything, we're learning how little we know. And I'm still baffled at how little I know, because I am so passionate about politics and I'm so embedded in politics in this county. I'm first to admit that the school board has fallen under my radar, and I knew Camille was no longer my representative because she started running for other seats.
Yeah, because she ran for state.
Yeah, and I don't know who replaced her, and I need to get to know my board member. I think that is a really important issue, not in a creepy way, but reach out to your board member and let them know who you are and let them see your face, and maybe they'll think of you when they are making decisions like this. And since we can't do a recall of people because we disagree, what we can do is focus on the future. So if you want to run for office and you have an interest in running for school board, I'm happy to assist you as far as letting you know what a campaign entails and ways to get in front of people. And we do have filing for county seats coming up. And I'm happy to invite you to our meet and greets and things like that. I would love it for people running for office to attend those.
You really should. If anything, if you're running for office, you need to get to where the people who are going to vote for you are, so that you can at least, you would hope at least along the way, listen to them, engage whether you're going to be someone who can be a voice for them. Because if you disagree with the people who are going to be voting for you, you should say, look, I can't represent you because this isn't going to be a good match. It's a lot like it's a lot like a bad date situation. You sit at the table and you agree, we don't need to carry on for dessert. We can finish it here at the main course and I'll drop you off at home.
No, I agree. And again, I know I've brought up the partisan part of it, but if you're
I don't know why the Democrat and Republican Party couldn't get together and do a school board meet and greet together.
We could do that. It's just, this is the first time that and I know a lot of these school board members are probably leaning left, which is probably why I haven't seen them.
Yeah, could be.
And our party goes pretty out there to try to get candidates in front of people. At least me, as the chair of the party, that is very important to me to get candidates in front of my delegates at least 3 times. So maybe that's why Camille reached out to me when she did, to try to get involved in the delegate meetings. But I also know that Camille is far more conservative than probably other people would be on the board.
Yeah, she was running for against Thatcher, if I remember.
No, Sandal.
She was running against Sandal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was running against Sandal, and it's hard to beat an incumbent. It just is.
Yeah, and Sandal's been a long time.
And it's a few counties that you got to run in, so it gets to be a very expensive race.
Yeah.
And
and also he's got a little more abilities. But anyways, we got to cut this show down. Thanks everyone for joining us.
we love y'all. We do.
And no one even caught I'm going to look at that line item, see how much paddles cost. No one even caught that one.
I mean, you said line item. That was enough for me. I don't care what it is. It's probably on there somewhere. You
The
mean
paddles?
a board of education?
Yeah.
My cousin literally has a board of education.
Hey.
She hangs in her house, and it says board of education, and it's a whooping paddle.
My grandma had one when I was growing up.
Yeah.
That sweet little lady. It was a yardstick and had a big heart-shaped pillow on the bottom of it that said grandma's paddle.
Oh, geez. My grandma had a fly swatter and my grandmother had an Indiana Jones whip. She
Which
called a
grandma?
black snake. My father's mother.
Yeah.
And she used it up
Yeah.
until the day my brother stole it and hid it from her.
Well, your mother's mother was the scary one. I've heard this story.
Yes.
All right. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Be safe. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
We'll probably talk more school board again then, but we do. I do want to talk about this greater Texas Democrats running away and see what comes of that. That's a wild story.
I do want to talk about the Gaza Strip as well. So I would like to cover that.
The heavy show.
We're hearing both. We're hearing so much. And I really got to put this together because I can't find a piece that makes me feel like I'm seeing truth. And that's important to me. So I want to see everything. I know there's a lot of criticism against Israel. There's a lot of criticism against the UN. I know Trump recently said that we've sent $50 million of food and we're trying to get with Israel. Israel saying they should just occupy the Gaza Strip. I mean, all of this. And then I hear people are starving on the Gaza Strip by Israel. So I want to find this information out so that I can feel just good about going forward with it and maybe learning more. That's what I want. I want to know and not blindly follow what somebody's telling me. I'm tired. I'm tired of just eating propaganda and not knowing what's real or fake. So I know a lot of people are there with us and want to know the truth. So hopefully we can find that.
Oh.